This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I am going to narrate second and final part of What If Naruto and Hinata were genius and rivals. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Hinata Hyuga spent the entire week preparing for the Genin exams by being resilient, strong, and brave. She was aware that this day would arrive, so she had been working extremely hard at every kick, punch, palm work, and even practicing day and night to ensure she was ready to be a fitted ninja. The Hyuga had occasionally visited the library, and even when she saw her friend Sabure, she chose to ignore the conversation and delve into the books instead. Over the past week, she has not spoken or interacted with anyone. She was lured in by the prospect of disproving her father. Her subconscious never seems to let that go. The man she slept with nightmares about was her father. In the midst of her mother's death, that frightened, punished, and defeated her, she was aware that it was because she shared some of her mother's traits, including appearance, beauty, and personality. Although Hinata didn't know much about her mother, she was aware of how she presented herself to her. She refused to allow her own mother to die in vain or to let her mother die in a grave without cause. She made it her mission to carry on her mother's legacy, to lead the way to the finish line where her mother was unable to due to the Nine-Tailed Fox's cunning claws. Hinata was unable to cry or weep for her mother on the day they declared her to be among the dead. The whole time she sat in the seat at her mother's funeral, she felt merely emotionless. Mothers turned on fathers, brothers turned on brothers, and rumors started to circulate. Even Hinata was unable to comprehend the icy, stoic fury that engulfed people's hearts today. She had personally experienced and witnessed pain. Her once good life was replaced by cold and difficult times because she was raised in a home full of apathetic, indifferent, and unemotional Hyugas. Mother's passing undoubtedly had a profound impact on our clan. The father lost it all after the love of his life left him, which is why the clan was in this state now. To him, she was the only thing that could make his suffering, anxieties, and sense of dignity go away. She was everything to him. Hinata thought that when her father opened his eyes, he would see the same light that her mother had come into her. The only way for her father to see the same light in her is to change oneself, and she wanted to help him even if it meant using every last bit of her remaining spark. I never wanted our family to be torn apart, mother. She runs her fingers over the silver string of her stunning pendant necklace, adorning the item that brought back so many memories of her grounded mother. But don't worry no longer. I will do my best to separate myself from their workings, she said, lifting and kissing the pendant in the center of its helm after taking a close look at the trimming of such a small creation. She exhales her final words before leaving the room, raising her head to give herself one last glance in the mirror. I promise. Bracing herself, she flew out the door prepared for whatever it was to pass the exams. She never turned around as she left the room, closed the door, and bowed to her father following his discouraging advice to, "Don't embarrass our clan." An excited boy named Uzumaki Naruto exclaimed, "Yada! I can't believe today is the day I get to become a ninja. Isn't this great, Sasuke?" Teme. As he bumped into his old friend. Sasuke utters an impolite utterance. The village prodigy, Uzumaki Naruto, excels at practically everything he does. He's not the haughty kind or the one who intentionally puts someone down. He genuinely thought that everyone could succeed if they put their minds to it, despite his nasty remarks in the past. While getting dressed, he was arguing with Sasuke, his best friend, about who should be on which team. As long as they didn't think poorly of him, he secretly hoped to be on Hinata's and possibly someone else's. Additionally, he hoped he wasn't assigned to a fangirl's team. Karma is aware that it would be disastrous for him. As he walked to the breakfast table where Kushina and Minato were going, the Uchiha warned him, "I swear if you don't shut your mouth, Dobi, I'll shut it for you." Greeting them both with a smile, the redhead said, "Good morning, boys, today's the big day, right?" He crosses his arms and huffs and puffs, saying, "Yeah, I'm so excited. But Sasuke Teme over here always gotta ruin the cheer." Knowing that he had Uzumaki blood running deep in his veins, his mother laughed at his words and actions. Then Kushina whispered this in her birth son's ear. "Well, you couldn't possibly expect Sasuke to be happy about things such as this. He's a sour ass, remember? Aahhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh Coughing, Minato approaches the Uchiha boy to support their assertions. Not wanting everyone to catch up with the final survivor, Minato said, Now, don't you all get on Sasuke. This boy here knows when to shut up, something Naruto lacks in. After saying that, Naruto pouted, and the redhead giggled once more. You guys should leave after you eat. You don't want to be starving in class, especially you Naruto, she said, putting a hand to her heart to relax. I think that is enough for today. Sighing, Naruto said, I know. Naruto and Sasuke set out into the sunset prepared to become what they deserved after eating breakfast, saying goodbye to their guardians, and engaging in healthy morning activities. Sasuke and Naruto had spent the entire week training. Scouting, sparring, techniques, reflex tests, chakra, building exercises, and a variety of other things that the Hokage was willing to teach them were all done by them. Although they knew that using ninjutsu could endanger the villagers, they had kept it light and spar, occasionally going all out with taijutsu. For today, they made sure to get a lot of sleep and take breaks from their training. They should have no trouble passing the genin exams. Children were playing and running up and down the road when Naruto and Sasuke came out the door. The sun was scorching, and they were unable to ignore the pleasant breeze that blew through the village. There was so much love, passion, and freedom in this village that it was impossible for anyone to overlook the children's radiant faces. Naruto wanted things to remain calm and lively like this. As he looked at a father holding a young person's hand, a tug tugged at his lips. He sensed their strong relationship and the love they were giving off to one another. His relationship with his parents was nearly identical. With a sweet smile, the Uzumaki proceeded toward the academy's grounds in the hopes of arriving there before encountering any difficulties. To their relief, Naruto and Sasuke soon made it to the classroom undamaged and free of any fangirls. Every female in the room swarmed at the two boys as soon as they walked in, reminding them of their status every single day. Naruto smiled and said, "Hello ladies." He felt compelled to show kindness to those who weren't bothering him. With a gleam in their eyes, the girls exclaimed, "Hey one Naruto. Kun." At the prospect of the Uzumaki genuinely greeting them with warmth. But that wasn't the case for Uchiha, who was sandwiched between two prickly fangirls who professed their love for him. The pink-haired woman snarled at her blonde companion in front of her, saying, "Ino. Pig, don't start today." The blonde, who goes by Ino Yamanaka, exclaims, "Look forehead, just admit that I'm gonna be Sasuke. Kun wife, then we can all put this behind us," as she finishes her statement and raises her hands in the air. Her best friend told her, "Ino. Pig, you will never be with my Sasuke. Kun ever. So get over it," but she didn't believe her. A Yamanaka, especially one that spends their entire day rolling around in mud, was too strong for Haruno to defeat. Sakura. Ino. What a drag, just when I thought today would be a quiet day. Shikamaru Nara, the class's smartest student with an IQ of over 200, sighs and shakes his head in embarrassment. His best friend, the child next to him, couldn't agree more. Yeah, they get into a fight every day about Sasuke. Shikamaru yawned and put a hand on his right cheek, saying, "Honestly, I don't know what they see him." The Akamichi was intrigued by the statement and wanted to know what his friend meant. His question, "Are you jealous or something, Shikamaru?" didn't seem to have any impact or surprise on Nara, who knew he would ask him as expected. "I just think the feelings they have for him is impractical to a guy that never spares them a single glance." That had to be Choji's opinion. When they constantly play the role of suspect rather than victim, their emotions are essentially worthless. Claiming something that is not there and belongs to someone else is what is meant by suspicious. In particular, deciding who will marry Sasuke without requesting the honor of being their spouse. In other words, forcing something purposefully hopeless. However, victim is a different situation. Time is the best defense in this case. For instance, Sakura might have a chance to win the Uchiha if she stops her compulsive actions, careless deeds, and sporadic nitpicking with the prodigy. It will be extremely difficult, though, because he generally doesn't like what he sees. The girl's little fantasy will therefore almost certainly never materialize in front of their eyes. In a low voice, Koji told his best friend, "I honestly feel for them. They can be a bit rowdy and clingy, but even they don't deserve the treatment Sasuke gives them." Shikamaru sighed once more as he looked at the two girls who were still fighting. "I'm not saying that faith can't create a path for them. I'm saying the path would be hella long if they want to get it through his thick skull." He nodded his head and smiled at his friend, saying, "I just hope no one ends up too hurt. It's just too troublesome." Shikamaru straightened himself as he heard footsteps approaching, knowing that today was exam day. Before he knew it, Mizuki-sensei and genin instructor Iruka were walking in front of the classroom. As everyone calmed down, the commotion subsided. Everyone sat down in their designated seats. Two more people entered, one of whom they recognized and the other two they did not. "Good morning everyone." Iruka enthusiastically welcomes everyone. After a brief return greeting, he went on. He smiled when he saw no one leave. As we all know, today is the day of the genin trials. If anyone feels the need to leave, they are welcome to. I am not holding it against you if you do not take the trials. Okay, this should be easy. I need a perfect transformation of me and Mizuki. This is how it goes. After you have made me a perfect clone, then take your place at the center of the room standing in a straight line. I will call your names, so don't worry about who's gonna go next. Iruka continues to rant, and then concludes, there will be a second part to taking this exam to prove if you truly deserve the headband that marks you as a ninja. Iruka began yelling names, and one by one they arrived and performed flawless transformation clones for the teachers. For now, let's start the first part of the exam. They recognized them as ninjas when they smiled while observing their work. Hyuga Hinata. As the blue-haired boy approached the front of the room, a voice screamed, "Go Hinata!" Chan. Around the room. Naruto, the Hyuga said, grinning over her shoulder as she turned back to face the Jonin, oblivious to the glares and inquisitive looks she got from the fangirls and a few other academy students. Iruka's voice said, "All right, let me see it." Hinata only needed to take one lesson from the mentor to undergo a flawless metamorphosis. Iruka gave her a ninja headband while grinning and expressing his pride in her. Uncertain of where to put her headband, she grinned down at it. She noticed that almost everyone had it on their arms or foreheads. Just as Iruka called out, she leaned over and scraped the headband firmly onto her leg, saying, I'll have mines on my leg." Uzumaki Naruto. He pulled off a flawless transformation clone like it was easy peasy, and when Iruka handed him the headband, he cheered, "I can't believe I'm a ninja now." There were shouts and cheers because they knew Naruto would do this with ease. "I am one step closer to realizing my dream." Uzumaki's smile widened as he rubbed the back of his head. "Hey, congratulations, Naruto." Iruka grinned. "Iruka? Sensei, you don't deserve praise. You ought to have known I would pass the tests all along." Iruka simply grinned and told him, "I knew Naruto all along. I have faith in you." Mizuki put a hand on Naruto's shoulder as he was ready to go to the line and said, "Good job Naruto, I knew you could do it." Naruto was shocked that Mizuki Sensei was genuinely complimenting him because Mizuki always came across as the sly, cunning, and secretive type, which really confused him and made him dislike something about him. "Thank you, Sensei." Mizuki nodded joyfully as he saw the blonde boy interacting with the girls next to him. He recognized her from the hospital, the heiress of the Hyuga clan, and he was, to put it mildly, shocked by Naruto's selection of girls. She wasn't particularly ugly, but someone from a brutal clan that rarely displays emotion should be emotionless, but here she was, a young girl who was so different from her clan members, and to make matters worse, she was from the head branch. Mizuki suspected that she might be a failure to her clan if she was acting in such a manner. After carefully observing the two, Mizuki couldn't help but compare her to the clan, wondering if this was one of the few reasons he liked the girl that is, because he somehow knew about her personal life and how difficult it would be for her. It's interesting that she differs from all of the head branches. Sabure Iochito. As the final person to cross the Genin trails, the Sabure swiftly went down. "I am extremely proud of all of you. The training grounds are where the second section starts." Targets on logs and what appeared to be an obstacle course caught everyone off guard when they arrived at the academy backgrounds. "This is an obstacle course, basically it works for ambush or any other situations ninjas run into," the statement read. "This will get you ready to become a ninja. Sly, swift, and agile. When I count down to 1, every single person will run through the course. 3. Everyone took their places. Some stood with their hands on their right leg and their knees bent, while others simply stood with their hands in their pockets. Hinata, on the other hand, gazed at the course with fire in her eyes, determined to compete with the blonde-headed boy next to her. Naruto noticed the expression in her eyes and grinned before lowering himself into his own stance. She seemed not to hear him as she quickly became agitated. "I guess this is where faith aligns us, Hinata-chan." 2. 1. The Uchiha was first in line, spinning in the air to avoid the kunais that were coming at him. The wind tried to knock him off balance, but before he could do so, he looked up and saw that there was no wind, but a Jonin had smashed a foot into the Uchiha's gut. "Arg!" Sasuke groaned, his face displaying pain, and he attempted to sway away from the corporate. Realizing he had no chance, he used his feet to trip the Jonin, and when he fell, he got up and dusted himself off, just in time to see that he was no longer there. "Where is he?" Sasuke thought as a kick went to his head. He ducked over it and kicked his opponent with both an upper and a lower kick, twirling his body and clenching his fist to hit the Jonin, who caught it in his hands and tried to throw him to the ground, but Sasuke was fortunate to get a hit off him when he socked the Jonin on the cheek. He fled, but someone else kicked him in the head. "Damn it!" Sasuke dodged, engaging in a vicious fight with the Jonin of kicks, punches, jabs, overthrows, and spin wheels. "Hey!" After hearing a voice behind him, Sasuke realized it was Naruto, his best friend, who had just kicked his opponent in the head. Uzumaki grabbed his friend and left, Hinata right behind him. Naruto began running as fast as he could, dodging kunai, spheres, and occasionally even jumping away from paper bombs. He was surprised to see everyone fighting against one another, demonstrating treason, and he was shocked to see that something had just exploded in front of him, causing him to stop. He looked to his left, confirming it was a human lunging in a tree unconscious. He told his friend to his left, or at least he believed he was, Sasuke were going to have to take everyone down before they reached the finish line. Naruto then saw that Sasuke was caught in the middle of a fight that didn't seem to be going well, and he was about to offer him assistance when a certain blue-haired girl intervened, spinning her back so it was on his. He whispered, "Hinata." She remained silent as 3 genins formed a Dorito formation around them both. Uzumaki glanced at his best friend to check on him, but to his dismay, he was engaged in combat with 2 genins who appeared to be putting up a fierce fight. "I'll suggest you both to give up or I'll render both of you unstable." The Jonin voice was hushed, as if they should surrender while they could. "There's 3 of us against the 2 of you." Neither of them spoke. After a long moment of staring into each other's eyes, Naruto and Hinata turned to face their opponents, with Naruto grinning and Hinata grinning. "It's going to happen, like hell." With a familiar sigh, he put his hands up and yelled to his opponents, "Kage Bushin no Jutsu." 3 Naruto clones emerge. Hee, let's see who is outnumbered now. Along with the Hyuga heir and the real Naruto, the 3 clones charge at them. The genins make a huge leap back, but the Hyuga twirl over their heads and activate her Byakugan in the midst of it. She hit the genin twice in the back, once on his left shoulder and once on his right, striking him in the middle of his back. The force caused him to fly forward with the wind and knock him unconscious into a tree. Naruto clenched his hands into a fist and struck the genin from the left and right, as well as up and down below. The genin were dodging some, but Hinata was able to sense when the blow would come, so it all depends on how quickly you are able to stop it. Go. All right. Down below. In reality, the Hyuga was assisting his opponent by intervening during the battle, and each time she gave a command, Naruto paced in tandem with her. The 3rd ninja was also assisting his friend. Side. Avoid. Go to the left. The blonde boy grabbed his fist and viciously twisted it behind his neck, saying, "ARGHHHHHH1." The genin's yells only made Naruto want to go a little further and break off his entire arm. The Hyuga flipped one over her shoulder, bringing the genin down with the bottom of his shoe on their chest. "Stay down." When the genin continued to kick, grunt, and hassle, Hinata quickly apologized to her opponent before excluding him from the count. Surprised, the Hyuga turned to see her opponents preparing to amputate another genin's arm. "Naruto!" Hinata yelled for him to stop, seeing the terrible fire in his eyes, as if he wanted to kill himself. "This is only a test, and not the real deal, please calm down." He finally calmed himself after hearing her gentle voice, releasing the boy's wrist. The boy fell to the ground, clutching his wrist in agony, and gave the prodigy a single glare. "Hey, if you truly wanted it, I could have simply broken your arm." The boy became a little frightened when Naruto hissed at the end, saying, "Naruto, look at this." After the boy fainted behind him, Naruto looked in the direction she was pointing. He was approaching the purple-haired girl when he noticed that there was only grass in the fields, which meant that everyone was battling to reach the finish line. Their bodies are all gone, but no one was supporting one another. A voice cut Naruto off as he was about to respond, saying, "The Jonins took care of that." Mizuki-sensei was perched on a tree, watching the 2 with interest as they assumed their fighting stances, prepared for whatever he was going to throw at them. Mizuki held his hands in surrender and said, "I'm not here to fight." "So why have you come here?" Above the clouds, the blonde boy yelled, and Mizuki flew down from the tree, landing a good distance away from the 2 genins. They tensed up, but remained in their positions, thinking that perhaps he had a secret. Their position remained unwavering. "You don't have to worry, I'm not going to hurt you." Mizuki sighed, "I want to help you guys out." Both genins' faces were confused. Naruto yelled, "Why would you want to help us anyway? Who did this Jonin think he was?" He sizzled his teeth. "There is only one way to win this fight, and that is to defeat each other until one of you survives." Naruto took a kunai out of his pouch and said, "We don't need your help." Mizuki noticed the motion of his hand and said, "Remember, I'm not here to fight." Mizuki then moved behind the tree, revealing his best friend, who was hunched over and panting. "Sasuke. Remember, it's every man for himself," Naruto yelled to his brother, who was about to approach him for assistance when Mizuki blocked his path. "I advise you to accompany me if you don't want to have to bury your friend. I'll teach you how to defeat your friends and still win this competition." Because of Sasuke's reputation, Naruto truly needed this opportunity. Throughout his life, everyone had only ever seen him as Minato's son, as though he were following in his father's footsteps. Sometimes, when he looks in the mirror, that's all he sees his father in him. He wanted everyone to see him as Naruto, not Minato. Damn it, even their names sound similar. Mizuki's smile turned to a smirk and he said, "Only after you heal him." The Jonin mentor nodded and leaned over to the Uchiha, his hands turning green. Naruto became alarmed when Sasuke's eyes widened before he fainted. "What did you do?" "Don't worry about it," the blonde asked as Mizuki wiped his hands. "Nice job. It can occasionally occur during the healing process. He simply fainted from exhaustion." Mizuki shook his head in response. No, Naruto made a face that suggested he wasn't sure what he was telling him, saying, "I thought the healing was supposed to help with that. It only helps heal minor wounds like cuts, burns, and scrapes. It doesn't help with fatigue. Furthermore, why would I waste my student life as a Jonin teacher?" Mizuki saw that the Hyuga were silent in the background and asked, "This could have been a time for you to escape." Naruto had to concede that he had a point. "What made you decide to remain?" The Jonin teacher became even more interested. "I want to stay with Naruto," the Hyuga says calmly. "I won't be the one to battle him to the end if this doesn't work." Mizuki was aware of their battle from about a week ago, but he had no idea she would carry it out again. There must be some rivalry thing going on, he thought, assuming it was the animosity Minato and Hiyashi had for one another. "I see," said Mizuki in a mysterious manner, placing his hands in his pockets. "All right, the first thing you have to do is steal the sacred scroll from the Hokage." Naruto and Hinata's eyes widened before they asked, "Steal from M.My dad?" "Yes, Naruto. Do you want this opportunity?" Observing the young boy's hesitation, Naruto appeared uncertain. "I'll tell you guys a little secret," he said. "Those who did not finish this course will not be able to graduate from the academy. Because Iruka or someone from the council deemed them unfit to be ninjas, their headbands will be returned." W. "What are you saying?" "B. But I had an idea." No. The teacher dismissed his responses with a shake of his head. "Do you recall Iruka's statement about being a true ninja? The one who ends up on the other end? Who overcame their feelings in order to finish the mission. The only way to avoid hurting your friends is to cheat your way out of it without having to prove it to them. I'll go to any lengths." Before she ran out the door, Hinata began to consider what her father had said, warning her repeatedly not to embarrass the clan and that if she finished the course, her father would be proud of her. Although Naruto wanted to help his friend, she honestly didn't know why she wanted to help Naruto, but she knew she did. The Hyuga voiced her thoughts. "I'll do whatever it takes also, Mizuki." "Sensei." The Jonin simply grinned as they dropped their defenses and trusted the enemy's hands. "Put your arm around my waist," he urged them as they approached the teacher and followed his instructions, at which point the leaves began to gather between their feet and they found themselves in a different location all at once. "So there's another way around it." A purple-haired boy emerged from behind a tree, looking at the location from which they had just left. "Hama." He strutted over to the Uchiha, bending down and smirking as he examined the boy's hand. "Something's not right. It looks like instead of Mizuki Sensei healing him, he poisoned him. Could that mean Naruto and Hinata were being duped?" This thought made him angry, not because the Uchiha was poisoned or that Naruto was being duped, but rather because he put Hinata in danger. "I must let Iruka Sensei know." As he flew to find his Jonin teacher, who wanted to speak with him about this new get-around, he carried the poisoned Uchiha on his back. Since when had Iruka mentioned that their headbands needed to be returned? "What the devil is happening?" He explained the plan to both Genins, who accepted it and fled into the daylight to steal the sacred scroll from the Hokage. "And I will be waiting for both of you right here." They were in the forest on a specific spot with an X drawn on it. "Whoa. Take a look at these amazing new jutsus. You pick one, Hinata." Though Hinata appeared unsure, Naruto exclaimed with excitement that he had won the lottery. "Naruto, we should go quickly to Mizuki Sensei and inform him that we have located the scroll." "Oh, correct. Apologies." He laughed uneasily as he paced into the forest, but he frowned as he looked at the scroll again. "One small jutsu won't hurt, will it, Hinata-chan?" The Hyuga merely grinned and giggled, saying, "I suppose not, Naruto, but only one." Naruto's smile widened as he sat down on the ground below, Hinata's hair blowing slightly in the wind as she sat formally next to her blonde companion. The morning sun shone down on the two as though they were the only ones in the spotlight. "I'm sorry, Hinata," Naruto said, blushing as he noticed the Hyuga sitting next to him and attempting to hide the fact that she was leaning on him to look at the scroll. "Perhaps you ought to hold it." "No, you have it. I have no problem seeing over you." She shook her head when he held the scroll out to the Hyuga. Naruto urged her to accept his offer, but the Hyuga refused, shaking her hands in front of her face. But Hinata-chan, I'm taller than you and you can barely see because of me, he exclaimed. It's really okay and Naruto. It's not okay. Despite his best efforts to hand her the scroll, she continued to sway it away. As she pushed the scroll in the blonde's direction, her little voice began to grow. I said I'm fine, she said. It's not fine, as too, no it's not. Stop struggling. Hinata-chan, Naruto. Naruto. He asked, looking perplexed as to why she was blushing, but when he looked down, he saw that his hand was inadvertently embracing her pale, soft, and milky fingers. They were staring with fire in their eyes when Naruto did something unexpected. His face flushed, and he immediately withdrew, as though her hand were a sickness. I'm sorry Hinata-chan. He turned his face away from her, unable to even look at her. Everyone could see how embarrassed he was, but Hinata simply gave him a warm smile and reassured him, saying, It's okay, Naruto. It was just an accident. His cheeks continued to flush, but that helped him relax and lessen his anxiety. The words, Let's just forget about the stupid scroll already and head to Mizuki Sensei, caused his arms to flare. Hinata smiles once more. Only if she understood the impact a single smile had on him. If I were Naruto, where would I go? Pondered Iruka, the Jonin instructor. He was shocked, to put it mildly, to learn from a boy that Mizuki had given his pupil the order to steal the forbidden sacred scroll. Jonins began to disperse in search of the boy with the blonde hair at that point. To be honest, he was more shocked to learn that one of his closest friends was engaging in serious criminal activity by manipulating the children's minds. It seemed as though he had prearranged for this to occur. It dawned on the Jonin teacher as she looked to the east, west, and south. He would leave the village and enter the forest if he were Naruto and stealing a sacred scroll. Even though Iochito had some cuts and bruises, a pimple on his cheek, and possibly some redness on his knees, he was as healthy as they could be. He was worried about Hinata, his friend. She had left with one of the Hidden Leaf's traders. He felt guilty as he watched them go, even though Iruka had warned him not to talk about this with anyone. However, he commended himself for doing so, since the Uchiha might have been sitting there, dying from poisoning and exhaustion. It surprised him that he had some sympathy for the Uchiha. Wait, he always considered him to be a stuck-up prick. Even though he still believes he is a prick, it was worth it to see him in combat. He had the option of throwing him like a jelly bag and telling everyone that he was the one who had beaten up their beloved Sasuke-kun. Iochito wasn't the kind to take no one else's kill, though. He was aware that Sasuke was the only reason they accompanied Mizuki. It was not as though they didn't feel compelled to fight. Iochito was aware that they would have defeated Sasuke in a minute if he hadn't been Naruto's assumed brother and a valuable friend. But what about him? Iochito, what about him? Would they have treated him similarly? The boy with the purple hair even congratulated himself on that idea. He had explained to Sasuke that he was more interested in helping those in need than getting into arguments. Iochito wanted to be the person who helped others, but he also had the ability to kick someone in the ass if they touched one of his teammates. Since he was in that role, no one would have expected him to be as skilled as a medical nin, but in reality, ninjas are supposed to be the best fighters because they had to assist the main character who was fighting the enemy. To put it simply, a surprise attacker. The nurse took his temperature and grinned reassuringly, saying, You can leave as soon as your redness in your knee completely heals. You'll be out here in no time. The man heard someone shout, Mizuki Sensei, from a nearby location. He squinted to confirm that the Hyuga was grinning triumphantly and the Kyuubi boy was waving. I'm right here, Naruto. He yelled, gesturing with his hand. With open hands, Mizuki said, Now hand over the scroll. Just as Naruto was about to hand it to him, he heard a heart-shrieking cry, No, Naruto. They all turned to see Iruka Sensei, the genin instructor, sprinting toward them. Above, Naruto yelled, Iruka Sensei, what are you doing here, over the hovering trees? Quick boy, hand me the scroll. Don't Naruto. In the midst of this confusion, the Hyuga wondered, what's going on? Everything Mizuki said was a lie. Hinata and Naruto eyes widen. Naruto held onto the scroll tightly, growling at the instructor that led them on. Mizuki chuckled. A lie, huh? A deception? No, Iruka. I will tell you what a lie is. With his teeth clenched in annoyance, Mizuki yelled, They deceived you all your life, Naruto. What do you mean by D.Do? What lie could that be? Naruto was becoming more and more intrigued by the moment, and you could even say that he was beginning to become irate. No, Mizuki, do not, oh no, Please don't tell me not to speak. Iruka threw kunais at the Jonin when he reached him, but he flipped away. Iruka continued to charge at him until he was sweating on the ground. What's happening? What a lie! Naruto wanted to know the lie he was unaware of and for this battle to end immediately. He wanted answers, and he wanted them now. No, Mizuki. Do not tell him. Mizuki was about to respond when Naruto interrupted, asking, why can't he tell me? Got something to hide, Iruka. Sensei! Iruka shouted out, still gasping from their fight. Naruto glared at his teacher and growled, which silenced him. Your entire existence is a lie. Have you ever questioned why people would pretend to smile at you or even why someone would dare to give you a glare without your father noticing? No, do not, Hinata. Have you ever pondered why they stand so rigidly close to your father whenever he walks beside the Hokage? No, Mizuki. It's because no, he was too weak to resist Iruka's attempts to stop him. It's because you, Naruto, are encased in the beast of the nine-tailed fox. The same thing that so many years ago ruined the village. The beast that killed Hinata's mother and killed Ayuka's parents, the nine-tailed fox is you. It's because you, Naruto, are encased in the beast of the nine-tailed fox. The same thing that so many years ago ruined the village. The beast that killed Hinata's mother and killed Ayuka's parents, the nine-tailed fox is you. Falling to the ground in shock, Naruto gripped the scroll and shook his head incredulously, saying, This can be. He shook his head once more before shedding a silent tear. Why? You're lying. Mizuki softly mimicked his gesture and replied, I'm afraid not, boy. You really are the fox with 9 tails. Give that scroll to me now. Don't listen to him. And Naruto. Why the beast that ravaged the village years ago is not you. Don't listen to him. His Jonin teacher struggles to convey his now spoken words to his devoted friend. Why? You're just Naruto Uzumaki. When Naruto looked up again, his heart ached to see one of his most precious people running away. Hinata. Naruto didn't respond. Instead, he just stared at the dirt ground in silence, now understanding why he was the target of those looks and glares, why everyone would always give him those fake smiles, those deceptive words, and those stuttering chanting in his head. Most importantly, he realized that he was the mark of a beast, that he had a curse, and he didn't know how exactly to fix it. They were playing together joyfully when this had to happen. The truth hurts like hell, and someone will have to pay for it. He clutched his hands in a roaring fist, clasped them, and was willing to do anything to ease the pain he was experiencing at the moment. How long has this been going on? He asked, his eyes tearing through the sensei. Infuriated that everyone was keeping something from him, Naruto asked. Ever since you were born. Mizuki replied. 5 seconds after the Uzumaki made a slight movement, the blonde boy shook his head for the 3rd time today and ran deeper into the forest. No, Naruto. Mizuki trailed behind the genin, marking his path so it wouldn't get lost while pursuing the 9 tails, but Iruka's calls were ignored as the blonde genin hurried into the forest. Mizuki. Damn you. Iruka cursed the mentor and began to limp back the way he had come in the hopes that someone would discover him and stop the other Jonins from searching for him. Now, Naruto, give me the scroll. Can't you see that Iruka wants to be your friend in order to plot your murder? All your life he lied to you. Why do you keep running away? Naruto became enraged upon hearing those words. It was the most intense anger he had ever experienced in his life, and Uzumaki Naruto rarely became enraged. The price of this is you. With his teeth clenched, Naruto screamed abruptly, you made my friend turn against me. Thanks to you. He was furious and letting his thoughts run wild when he said, and now someone's gonna have to pay. He said this in a sickly dangerous whisper. Group A. He shouted, and from the shadows appeared a group full of Narutos glaring at the targeted man. Group B. Exactly, his voice overpowered the forest as Mizuki witnessed another set of group peering out of the shadows, making him even more nervous. What the hell is this? The teacher was astonished by what he was seeing. These actually look like solid clone, meaning the real deal. Group C, up front. One clone kicked his chin upwards, another shattered his jaw leftwards, and the one that leapt to the top slammed the heel of his foot forcefully on the lecturer's head, sending his face crashing to the ground. The real Naruto jacked his neck up, choking the life out of him until his face turned purple. The clones formed a circle around the Jonin, cracking their knuckles and charging at the Jonin without their creator's knowledge. He released his grip and withdrew a kunai. Let's let everyone see the bloodiest location. The Uzumaki exclaimed excitedly, piercing an infected kunai through Mizuki's shoulders. This is going to be one hell of a body when he finished it. The cries, the whine, and the protest only made him feel more hate. Every shrike, smash, and scrape he put on the Jonin made him want to kill more. Side. When the teacher saw the Jonin whimpering away, two side clones jumped down and struck him with forceful kunai handling. He fell flat on his face, bleeding and aching, and the real Naruto growled, bending over and looking him in the eye, saying, "Get up." The Uzumaki threatened him dangerously, and the Jonin just whimpered while doing his best to stand, but the Uzumaki had done more damage than he realized. Mizuki. Sensei, how should I take your life? He didn't say anything, but Naruto could see a faint, agonizing smile on the Jonin's face as he spoke, stroking his mouth across his ear. What's so amusing? Mizuki stuttered out, I. If y. You kill m.met. The verses. Villagers w. Will think y. You're e. Even more of an m. Monster than you a. Already is. Naruto made a smug face, thinking Mizuki was making fun of him. He laughed lightly at the end of his statement, which earned him a punch to the temple that almost caused him to pass out. Want to repeat that? M. Mon. Pow. Why was I unable to hear you? The Uzumaki listened to him. I said Mon. Bam, from the beginning, Naruto had known that Mizuki was concealing something, that he was planning something, and he needed to know exactly what he was getting at. He didn't want to endanger his friends or Hinata, but he knew that a criminal from Konoha had to be stopped, and most importantly, he finally knew the truth. Naruto sucker punched him, his body tensing, his vision blurry, and he passed out suddenly from serious blood loss. He could understand that his parents were only trying to protect him and the village, but he felt a little betrayed that they were endearing the message from their own son. What would it mean that the secret was out? He had done them all a favor by bruising the person who allowed the secret to leak. He was surrounded by Jonin, his mother and father watching their son get severely beaten by Mizuki, and he knew that if he didn't leave quickly, they would blame him for this mess. However, it was too late. Naruto. Don't say anything to me. He glared at them, causing them to stop talking. Naruto simply handed the scroll to his father, saying, I apologize for that. I played along with it even though I knew it was a ruse. I am just as deserving of punishment as Mizuki. Sensei. Even the redhead was at a loss for words, but she couldn't sit here and let her young son believe that he was somehow responsible for what had happened. Naruto, this is not your fault. Never claim responsibility for someone else's mistakes. I suppose the same could go for you, mother. Father. To keep telling me lies, Naruto said, shaking his head in response to her response. A frown plasters their face as their eyes widen. In addition, I am somewhat appreciative of Mizuki. Sensei. Kushina expressed her idea, saying, W, what do you? Naruto cuts her off and leaves in the distance, saying, at least he knew how to tell the truth. Naruto. Kushina begged, putting her feet in motion to follow him, but was stopped by a hand on her shoulder. She glanced over her shoulder to meet her man's cerulean ocean blue eyes, and when she saw him shake his head, she frowned indifferently in comprehension. Minato. Kun, what have we done? Although she wouldn't have expected the secret to be revealed so soon, Kushina knew exactly what he was going through because she had also endured the faith of Kyanbi long ago. She whispered, placing a hand to her heart. Kushina couldn't get over the look Naruto gave him, a look of hatred, betrayal, sadness, and acceptance. Looking down at the dirt ground, Minato began, I wanted to tell Naruto for the Longesta. I can't say what we did was right or wrong, but it was for the besta, and you know that, Kushina. We all knew that. He growled as he concluded. The protection of the village was the most important factor. His eyes narrowed as he finished, glaring at the badly beaten Jonin. Get him arrested immediately. I never thought the day would come so quick. That my Sona, he breathlessly recalled the events that had just transpired inside his head. The Jonin nod their heads and, without hesitation, grabbed the body before taking off into the forest. We need to give Naruto some room, Minato said, until then, we'll have to deal with the new Naruto. His words slightly confused the redhead. What do you mean by the new Naruto? The same is true for my son. The Hokage's words caused her to erupt in rage. Kushina. Chan, know what we both just saw was the new Naruto. Kushina raised his head, a broken spirita. Minato's tongue scraped the words from his mouth, and the red-headed woman remained silent, frowning at the idea of her son being angry and treasonous toward her, his own mother, of all people. She understood what it was like to be tormented, rejected, and utterly useless because you have a dangerous beast inside of you, but she allowed this to happen. She bit her trembling lip and said, Minato. Kuna. Ei. He put a finger to her lip and a hand over her cheek to silence her. I know, Kushina. Chan, but know that we have to move forward. She raised her head to meet his eyes and he grinned down at her, saying, I'm sure Naruto will be back to his old self by meantime. She felt secure in his arms and pressed her head against the side of his jacket, letting a stray tear fall from her eye as she said her final words. I only hope so, Minato. Kuna. So this is the starting point for everything. A man wearing a large black coat looked around curiously, taking in the crisp green grass, the clean air, and the delicate flowers that were swaying quickly in the wind. It reminded him of the village hidden in the rainbow, which may have had many guards but exuded a sense of pure enlightenment. He didn't care about the light that came from this place, he was only interested in what he would gain from it. Yes, boy, when the Kyunbi attacked this village on October 25th, many years ago, this is, in fact, where it all started. An elderly man said, there's no reason to remain standing here any longer. It's a pity that Hiruzen didn't have much of a life to live. We have tasks to complete. Wait, said the man next to him, nodding. How did this happen now? That, in fact, the fourth Hokage arrived to live? He chose to sit on the grass with a view of the village in front of him after the other man showed interest in his questions. Come take a seat. He started the old story when the other man sat down beside his partner. It began when a woman, former Kyunbi host, Kushina Uzumaki, was pregnant with her firstborn son named Naruto. Kushina. Sama, have the doctors checked on you yet? Makoto Uchiha beckoned next to her in frustration. I don't want to have to knock on the door to tell them to get someone to look after you. No need for all that, Makoto. San, I can wait. Even so, she had led a luxurious life knowing that her child was temporarily safe and secure. She was aware that fate would eventually take a bizarre turn. Minato. Kun. Now that I have Naruto, I'm really terrified. What happens if they discover I'm expecting your son? How will we proceed? She covered herself with a blanket and worriedly eyed her lover. We take no action. We'll be ready for anything, but we'll have to wait and see. I swear that I will not allow them to take away our family. Never. Kushina grinned. I appreciate your reassurance, Minato, Kun. Through love, Kushina trusted his words, and as a result, he gained a lot of life experience from both their and other people's hearts. When the moment arrived, a savage roar emerged from beneath the tunnels and appeared in the village. A flash came from the corners of the room. Minato. Sama, the village is being attacked. Minato gritted his teeth and stared at the clock and then back at the window. Send Anbu for any survivors. Medical teams and all Jonins must go to the battlefield. Keep Genins at bay and seek a safe place citizens could revive. Get to going, Minato said. Minato's door swung open with a clash before he could finish speaking. The nurse called out for the fourth's immediate attention. Minato. Sama. What is it? Minato asks as calmly as she can. He was making every effort to control his panic and overreaction. The only thing Minato could say was, Kushina. Sama is giving birth, you must hurry. And he hurried out of his chair and out the door to his soon-to-be wife Kushina. Minato thought as she ran through the hallways, damn, just when things couldn't get worse. He had some charka saved up for later and didn't want to lose it. He was aware that he could rely on the elderly man, but a terrible event that even he, a Hokage, could not replace soon followed. Minato glanced from left to right, identifying door after door, and asked, which one is it? It wasn't long before they found the door. Room 145A. Minato twisted it and shifted his posture slightly in response to what he saw. His wife's face was completely red, her clothes appeared to be a little worn, and she was drenched in sweat, crying, and screaming in agony. The least he had to worry about was how awful she looked. There wouldn't be anything left to protect his wife during her delivery if he didn't figure out what he needed to do. He was aware of what to do. Given that his son would soon be born into this divided society, he knew he had to seal him with the very seal he had never wanted to use on such a beat. Minato noticed a dark figure standing out of the three people standing in the corner. He made the decision not to press the issue of why this particular person appeared to be so secretive. His wife and unborn son consumed all of his thoughts. Minato. He heard his wife sob for him, jolting him out of his reverie. He rushed over to his wife and firmly grasped her hand, saying, I'm here. I'm here. He attempted to calm her with his own voice, hoping and praying that this would help. To his dismay, it only made the pain worse. Ow hhhhhhhhhh. The nurses tried desperately to soothe her, but to no avail. She had to remain motionless. The nurse saw Kushina imitating her as she asked, okay, now push, and reassured her, saying, take 3 deep breaths, Kushina. Chan, you can do it. She screamed, ow, as her chin shot upward. From there on, a path sickly grew more and more complex. Minato and Hiruzen tried to hold off the beast so the village could be protected and so the people. Amongst them were Hyuga. Hishomi Hyuga, headmaster swordsman and class B in everything she does. She was prodigy. He was shielded from the blow by the shadow clone. With his eyes fixed on the Ninetales, Sarutobi skidded on the ground as he saw Hyuga sprint towards him while yelling, "Sarutobi! Sama, may I assist you?" His eyes shifted to the Hyuga, and he nodded out of the corner of his eye before saying, "Be careful. This is not an ordinary beast we see every day. Know that you will be remembered as a hero for all you've done." Hitomi Hyuga. She sacrificed her life for this village and put in any cost for this village. She was known as a savoir yet was casted away. Sarutobi. Sama. No matter what we do, nothing is working. What is your say on this? Coughing from the pain he had just experienced, Sarutobi looked up and said, We must seal. In order to help her Hokage, Hishomi drops to her knees and whispers, "Sarutobi. Sama. There's no need to walk. You have used enough energy. Let me handle this." "No," Sarutobi angrily said, staring into her eyes. "I am the village leader and the Hokage, and I declare that I will put an end to this, even if it means my death." And it did. He left his home and ventured into the woods. The man's abrupt departure startled him. He seemed to be deliberately trying to avoid bringing up the third Hokage's passing. Waiting for him to continue his story, the man followed him into the trees. The man asked the other man next to him, "What is it? What happened after that?" He looked over his shoulders while he was hauling, his eyes unmoving. "They died." Sasuke had a slight headache when he woke up. He moaned restlessly and looked to his left, where he saw a boy dozing off in a chair. He could recognize that hair and face from anywhere. Why on earth is he here? The fact that the same obnoxious individual he wished to get rid of was sitting next to him again irritated him. Sasuke groaned and put a hand over his head as he moved to sit up straight. "Why is my head hurting so much? The headache only got worse when I thought about it." In the hospital room, a voice said, "I'm glad you're awake." He glared, his gaze fixed on the boy. "I assumed he was sleeping." Sasuke inquired, a little irritated but intrigued by the situation. "What are you doing here and why am I in a hospital bed?" "I came here as soon as I could. The doctor said you would be just fine." Confused, Sasuke asks, "What do you mean? What happened to me? You're telling me you don't remember a thing about what just happened?" Iochito asks, raising a brow. He gave the Saburi a slight scowl. How dare he use such language when speaking to him? Damn it, he's Uchiha. Iochito recoiled when he saw how uncomfortable he was, saying, "I meant the passing events." Sasuke averted his gaze from his tisk. "No, I don't remember, or at least I don't recall. My head hurts too much to even try to remember." "I'm assuming you know more than I do, Sabure." "I do." Aochoto answered his thoughts. "Naruto and Hinata went off with Mizuki Sensei in the forest. They didn't seem to notice me, so I took this as an opportunity to win this fair shot. I was suspicious as of why Mizuki Sensei was offering to help them both." "What are you getting at?" Sasuke asked, raising an eyebrow at him. "Mizuki Sensei purposely set them up to fail the exam without reason. He told them how there was a way to get around hurting your friends in a battle and still win in the end. Naruto was so sunk into doing everything it took for his friends to come out in the end. He mostly did it for you, Sasuke." Sasuke remained silent. "They took off with him, so I went to you and observed the doing of what he had did before you passed out from his medical treatment. Turns out he filled you with poison that could kill someone less than an hour. It was lucky enough I sped here as soon as I discovered this." Sasuke was shocked, but he kept his expression neutral. "You helped me?" he asked. The boy just gave a nod. "What happened after this?" "Hokage Sama sent Jonins after both Naruto, Hinata and Mizuki Sensei. They were talking about stealing the sacred scroll." Sasuke opens his eyes. "When they learned this, they went after them to retrieve the scroll. I haven't heard news from then on. Only that they were off searching far and well." Iochito grinned and said, "I bet you're glad I study medical ninjutsu, huh?" Disregarding him, Sasuke got up from the bed and walked to the door. "Where are you going?" the Sabure asked, rising from his chair as well. "I'm going to find Naruto. The doctor said stay here until they're sure the poison is completely vanished from your body. There's no need to die before you can even take a step to your friend." Sasuke twisted the knob and argued, "I'll be fine. The Uchiha haughtiness only caused the emerald-eyed boy to shake his head. "Whatever you think is best for you." HN. "Iruka, we have been informed by the Hokage to send Mizuki to Konoha Police Force prison. During our status, it is confirmed that Naruto Uzumaki has put quite the beating on the Jonin instructor. The council is now arguing about possible flaws if they keep Naruto as this village any longer. They want you to attend." Iruka shook his head pitifully. After Iruka's thanked him, the individual nodded and walked out of the room. "I understand. I will be right there in a bit. I need to clear my head. Thank you for sending this message to me. Iruka let out a sigh. More problems each passing dia. Iruka strolled wearily through the Hokage's office. He went in now, aware of what his eyes were going to focus on. He was aware that Naruto's fate in the Hidden Leaf could end in an instant if he made a single mistake or said something inappropriate. His gaze immediately struck Kushina Sama, the fourth Hokage, the head of the council, and the few Jonins present who were eyewitnesses to the events as he opened the door. There should be no reason for this boy to walter in this village any longer. This boy is harboring the nine-tails beast inside of him that could possibly will harm this village. There's no time to speculate this matter. We must put my very words in action and have him exiled. The voice of a councilman filled the space with intense heat. The elderly woman who had said such things about her son was glared at angrily by Kushina and Minato. How dare you? Kushina shrieked. How dare you treat my son as if he's not one of us? I've been a former Jinchuriki of this damned village for a long time. Have I ever become angry enough to destroy this entire village? You speak as if my son would purposely unleash the fox Charka? You know nothing of my son. Your talk is all accusations and... As Kushina's eyes widened, the elderly woman defended. No, you listen here. This boy is a ticking time bomb ready to explode. The only reason you haven't gone into sheer bazaar is because you had Minato Sama beside you ever since you were kids. You had someone to keep you at peace, at stake. This boy has no one, she said, punctuating her statement with a period. Hesitantly, Kushina clenched her fist in rage. Minato, sensing her dissatisfaction, decided that speak out, your accusations are indeed wrong. My son doesn't need a lover to keep him at bay. Naruto need bonds, love and care. We could provide him abundance of those needs. I am his father, not only that but the Hokage of the Leaf itself. Naruto may be angry time to time, but Naruto is Naruto. Hyperactive and just as his mother, and even you have to agree with this. The councilwoman made a smug look. Naruto could go off any minute now, especially when he learned that he is carrying the demon that destroyed the village he seethed to protect now many years ago. When he learned from Mizuki that he is the nine-tailed fox and knowing his parents kept secret of every night and day he lived. Naruto is. Everyone's eyes screamed, you're wrong, as Iruka sat impatiently in his seat. He bowed his head low as he spoke the truth. I used to despise Naruto. Because I thought that he was the nine-tails fox. That he was the cost of my parents' death, all because of the nine-tails fox being sealed inside of this innocent child. He sternly voiced. I started to notice his personality more and decided maybe I was wrong. Maybe this boy is not the nine-tails but one of us after all. Iya came to accept him as a Jinchuriki, the holder of the nine tails, but not only that I accepted him as himself. Naruto is a great kid and often I hear him and so other Jonins rant about protecting the village. Believing he could be greater than any shinobi, Hokage or anyone that hurts those close to him. Naruto wants to protect this village as well as anyone else. He will die for this village but most all of he's willing enough to die protecting those precious to Hima. Iruka looked up confidently and said, Naruto shouldn't be banished. His choice was irrevocable. Minato looked around at the other Jonins and said, raise of hands that who thinks Naruto should be exiled. The head of the clansman raised her hand, and the other older man followed suit. To the right, another Jonin held up her hand. The council members were taken aback by Minato's display of composure. Please explain your reason for this. The Jonin woman began, I support the old woman. Kushina gave her a glare, which she chose to ignore. The nine tails go way back into Konoha history. It did great damage against our hometown, village and our people. Everyone in this room was alive to witness the trauma the nine tails had caused. We cannot let this matter pass us as if that boy is not taken captive, the very thing that killed our third Hokage and one of the greatest swordmen that lived. Hitomi Hyuga. When she was mentioned, the Hokage became stoic. Kushina struggled with it. Hitomi Hyuga did not die on the day the nine tails attacked the village and everyone here know this. Sarutobi Sama sacrificed his life for this village in order to seal the nine tails in my son. The Jonin shook her head. Sarutobi died by the nine tails and so did she. She was pregnant with her newborn that is the clan head of the Hyuga, or at least now in the running of becoming one. It is because of the Kyanbi doing that caused her to die in this hospital. Everyone here has their own sob story to tell. It's absurd and full of human feelings that our shinobi is not required to have. Once the emotion was spread, Kushina retreated. We all have been through heartbreaks, wars, and through treacherous days. Minato clasped his hands in his palms, even before the death of Hokage Sama. We formed bonds with the highest of power, and despite our rule of bondage against USA, we are all human before the day's over. Minato looked at her. These emotions are only human-wise and should be kept dear to our heart. We must not forget who we are. In spite of all the wonders a ninja, shinobi, and who could do, we are all affected some way. The Hokage eyes slowly closed, even if the only emotion we could feel is anger. He remembered what his son had done. I admit that we had done things that were against policy as shinobi, but whoever said a ninja always follow the rules? This meeting has been decided. You can't just throw away every detail I put into my words. I don't care if you're the Hokage. You know well as I do, Minato. Sama. This village is at stake, and you know it. Minato was about to speak, but unexpectedly Danzo cut within. This boy could actually prove beneficial to the village. He has something great sealed within him. He's the child of the fourth and is trained by the most prestige in this village. If you're worried about him destroying this village, why don't you get someone to educate him on how to control the Nine Tails? Kushina and the Hokage gave him suspicious looks. They both checked again to make sure he was okay. The elderly man broke his silence and asked, "What are you suggesting, Danzo, Sama?" Naruto. Kun will be trained to control the beast in the interior of his gastric. I suggest running test and then training him to expertise his fuel. This proved to better his hold management of resentment. How will you drive him to madness? Simple. Trash talks the ones that are dear to him. Better yet, anger could be developed by pain itself. Kushina erupted in rage. Minato attempted to calm his woman down by putting her back in her chair and saying, "You're not going to manipulate my son into becoming some lifeless being. If you think that I, for once, am going to allow you to hurt Naruto, then you might as well create your own damn clone to do your own dirty work." He whispers softly in her ear, "Calm down, Kushina. Chan. Don't let their words get to you." Kushina's face was still glaring. Like Sarutobi used to do when he was caught between issues, Minato massaged his temples. Minato eyes narrowed to Danzo. "Tell me, what if Naruto does lose control when the fuel is added? Is it that you can control his anger by using some type of jutsu?" Danzo sighed. "I know someone that's willing to try, but he hasn't been on duty for quite some time now." Kushina turned to face her partner. Does he really have this in mind? Well, what is his name? His name is Yumoto. He may not be able to control the Nine Tails itself, but he can control Naruto. Kun anger. Minato clasped his hands together and asked, "And what by controlling, does he do?" Yumoto can suppress the power of the tailed beast. Although the first Hokage could suppress entire tailed beasts, Yamato is not being as strong as the original, so it is unknown what the limits of his suppression ability are. However, he is able to suppress Naruto's tailed form in mere seconds before he can on a rampage. That's too risky. A clan member shout out, "In a mere seconds he can break out, and what if the 8's tails is released? You cannot bind it any longer. His tails will not get to 8 if it's suppressed by the time he'll grow one tail. If Hokage Sama decides on this training, then it would use great offense against the enemy." Great offense against the enemy? Minato raised a brow. Danzo gives a head nod. If Naruto Kun learns how to control the Nine Tails, then surely he can learn how to use the Nine Tails chakra without being unstable. That will have to be from a former host itself. Danzo concurred. Though that is correct, there is another that can control his beast, even became friends with it. Everyone became alert, even the council. He goes by the name Killer Bee, belonging to the village hidden in the clouds. The Cloud Village. We don't have a strong bond with them, especially after the failed attempt kidnapping of the Hyuga heiress. I could verily say we're enemies, sort to speak. I agree, but B could relate to Naruto Kun in very many ways. We should give them an opportunity. I think there should be a bond between the Leaf and Cloud despite all that's happened. Minato shook his head. That doesn't seem like a smart idea. If at any moment could one of the Cloud Ninjas attack this village, they would try to steal the sacred origins of the Byakugan. We can't have that. Danzo bowed his head. You are right, Hokage. Sama, they cannot be trusted here in the village. Maybe we should come to them instead, offering a peace treaty? One that does not allow them to enter the village until we see fit. We will aid them in supplies, missions, and whatever it is that does not require inside our village. Though, we will not do their horrifying needs that this village does not support. With a sigh, the Hokage spreads his hands. I'll have to think about this before I make a decision. Don't expect me to come up with a straight answer. Forming back broken bonds can be hard when the village themselves tried to form a peace treaty. Though who knew it could be all a setup to against the second Hokage. Minato had a lot to consider when he got home. This meeting is adjourned for now. We'll meet again to come up with my final decision. As for now, everyone is dismissed. He was getting tired of his job as Hokage these days. A voice called out to him, Hokage. Sama. The fourth glance is directed at Iruka, Naruto's Jonin teacher. Yes. He noticed the teacher grinning down at him. Tell Naruto I meant what I said? Minato's forehead lifted. When he saw Iruka go, he turned to his girlfriend. We have a lot of apologizing to do when we get home, Kushina-chan. Minato sighed. I just hope he can forgive us. Me too, but I'm not expecting him to forgive us right away. We kept that from him ever since he lay in my arms. Minato gave a nod. You're right, but we still need to apologize. Be prepared for some crying and yelling when we get home. Hinata took off running. She sprinted as quickly as her legs would allow. Mizuki Sensei started running as soon as she heard the phrase, mother's death. On the north side of Konoha, she came to rest by a lake. To be honest, as long as she avoided hearing those words, she didn't give a damn where she went. On the lush green grass, Hinata settled down. Occasionally she would catch a glimpse of her reflection in the water of the lake below. She became somber and even realized something when she looked into her reflection in the mirror. My mother died because of the 9 tails, which are imprisoned inside Naruto. She found it hard to believe. It never occurred to her that the person she had grown to respect, a friend, and a reliable opponent would be in possession of such a beast. A beast that killed my mother. She must have been deeply offended by it. This was the beast that resided within Naruto. She had to endure days of agony because of the living monster. The abuse she received from her father. The Hyuga clan's shortcomings. Before her eyes, the very transformation that had made the Hyuga stoic freaks today came to life. How could she overlook such a chance? How is it possible for her to forget that nothing occurred? That beast wasn't the source of all her suffering and failures? That hideous, dreadful creature that lies unharmed inside Naruto's stomach? I refuse to become like the Hyuga. She was aware of her pledge. She made a self-promise to avoid becoming like the emotionless Hyugas, whose faces are constantly covered by masks. However, she remains extremely tense because she believes that the same thing that killed her mother is still alive and is sitting comfortably in a boy's stomach. She would be damned if she didn't take action. Oh no, the only source of light in her father's life was being killed, and she was not going to let that beast get away with it. She reflected. What would happen to Naruto if she killed the beast? Naruto. Her thoughts kept returning to him. You're correct, Naruto. The person on her list of people she always hoped to be acknowledged. She had always hoped that he would become the next Hokage. She viewed him as a rival, and discovering that he harbors a beast within her has only increased her desire to defeat him. In the event that she were to kill the beast, Naruto would also have to perish. Is it all worthwhile? To murder her best friend with the intention of burying the creature? She was unable to say. She always thought of Naruto during difficult times. She thought of Naruto when she wanted to give up. She always asks herself, what would Naruto do? When she needs to think things through. She kept asking herself, is killing a best friend for retaliation really worth it? She was aware of Naruto's abilities and the daily grind of training. Naruto is kind, courageous, self-assured, and nice. Hinata thought, Naruto didn't ask for his life to be this way, but so did I. Thank you for being my rival. Yes, exactly. She recalled the time she had sealed their fates the previous week. She recalled how her hand settling into his made her smile broadly. The memory came back to her as if it had happened yesterday. I've been hearing rumors about you challenging the fourth son and losing to him in a sparring match. I don't know if it was a foolish attempt to impress me, but truthfully, Hinata, I'm not in the least bit impressed. You're still weak. At this pessimistic remark, the Hyuga eyes gradually grew darker. Her dad, after all the times she didn't know the truth, what would he say if she now gave up? What is he going to do? There are a lot of options, and none of them were good. He would either reject me or deny me. Look down on me and give me a scowl. Hinata thought negatively. Eject me from the Hyuga mansion or, worse, seal me with the birdcage seal. Perhaps all of the above. Before he disowns me and applies the birdcage seal, he will first frown at me and speak poorly of me. Finally, he will expel me from the Hyuga compound. Hinata accepted all the advice from her subconscious. Although she didn't want to consider any of the aforementioned scenarios happening to her, her father was undoubtedly cruel enough to carry them out. Hinata is unlikely to succeed if she is authentic. As long as she is carrying out her duty to kill the beast, her father won't care if she kills Naruto. She told her father and Minato-sama about it. She now realized that he actually enjoys the rivalry between the two. She assumed that her father would want her to oppose Naruto in the same way that he opposes the Hokage. She now realized that as the days go by, it will become more intense. A lavender butterfly drew her attention by flapping its wings in public. Hinata aspired to be that. She desired to be liberated from the bonds that prevented her from remaining in that household any longer, like a butterfly. Her goals were to spread her wings, become stronger, and fly. Escape the Hyuga clan, and flee her problems. However, that is not how the world operates. She couldn't escape her issues, and she couldn't be free either. She has no choice but to grow stronger and disprove her father. That she is more than just the girl that everyone thinks she is weak and despises. She is strong and wanted everyone to see how beautiful she is, just like a butterfly. I'm not sure what the future holds for me, but I'll be here living the present till it comes. Hinata Hyuga cracked a grin. She decided it was time to visit the Hyuga compound after watching the sunset. A location she aspires to call home one day. Iochito and Sasuke traveled nearly everywhere. They visited his house, Ichiraku's, the pottery store, the Hyuga compound, and a few other places they assumed Naruto would visit. They were unable to locate him, and they were aware that nightfall was approaching. Sasuke broke the quiet in frustration, saying, "It's going to get dark before we find Naruto. Something else must have happened." Iochito concurred. "I think so too, but we should keep searching for a bit. Hopefully we can spot where he went off to. You had better make sure I'm not looking in vain." Looking to his left, the Uchiha thought, "God knows he's an idiot." He bumped into someone without even realizing where he was going. When he saw who it was, he was about to apologize but stopped himself. The pink-haired shinobi blurted, "Sasuke-kun," as though startled. "Shaw, my plan works. I got a bump from Sasuke-kun." Sasuke sighs. "Excellent, I believed I had eliminated the fangirls today." Sakura excitedly laced her hands behind her back and giggled. "Heya, Sasuke-kun, can I ask you a question?" He said simply, "No." She continued to smile broadly and said, "But why not Sasuke-kun? That's a really good question." Sasuke gave her a fierce look. "I don't want to hear it." "I think you do," she exclaimed with a sweet giggle. On the side of the Uchiha's head, a tick mark appeared. His posture was slanting, and his tone was slick as he asked, "What do you want, Sakura?" His hands remained in his pockets. "He called my name. Haruno Sakura gets 1 point, Ino Pig 0. I wanted to know if you wanted to," she said, batting her eyelashes. "No," incomprehensibly, she answers, "Huh, but." Sasuke lets out a sigh. He left his back to her and walked away, saying, "How many times do I have to go over this, Sakura? I don't want to go on a date with you." "Sasuke-kun, wait," she exclaimed as she was ready to move when she noticed her crush halt. He stopped and glared at her while looking over his shoulder. "You're annoying." Sakura was left stunned and hurt as he continued walking. "Sasuke-kun," she said, looking at his back with a sense of defeat and hurt, "I just want you to accept me." Iochito and Sasuke were making their way to the bridge that led to the gates. Iochito was slow to express his opinions. "Ya no, you didn't have to hurt her feelings. I saw how she looked at you back there." Sasuke just answers, "I don't care. She's a shinobi now. If she doesn't know what pain is now, then they could easily take advantage of her out on the battlefield." Iochito smiles. "You make it seem as if you really do care for her." He brushed that question aside, saying, "No." A drop of sweat slowly formed in the back of Iochito's head as he said, "She doesn't know what it's like to be a shinobi until she starts being like I am. An Uchiha. This guy." Sasuke and Iochito went to the gate without turning around, saying, "We'll ask them at the gate if they've seen Naruto running around anywhere. If they say no, we go our separate ways." The boy was heard saying, "Halt." They told Sasuke to do so. "We are looking for a friend. Have you seen anyone go outside the gates an hour ago?" The first gatekeeper gave a headshake. "We haven't seen anyone go outside this gate. If we did, we would have caught them. What does your friend look like?" The gatekeepers' faces were familiar. "He has blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about." They chuckled. The shinobi complained at the end, "Oh, you mean the brat that always loves pulling pranks? He thinks he can get away with it is because his father is Hokage." He raised a suspicious eyebrow and said, "I apologize, but I haven't seen Naruto-kun around here." "Why? Did something happen?" Sasuke asked coolly, "Do you know a man by the name of Mizuki?" "Yes. He's a jonin that teaches genin students. Why are you asking?" Sasuke eyes swift to Iochito. "My friend here told me he caused some trouble with my friend Naruto. I couldn't find him since after the incident between them. I figured maybe something else had come up, otherwise Naruto would be home explaining to his parents about what happened. Do you possibly have any clue what Mizuki could have said to cause this to happen? It's not often when you see Naruto missing." He was eyed by the gatekeeper. "Have you tried speaking with his parents?" "The first thing I thought is going to his parents, but I've been informed that they were occupied in a meeting." The voice of Uchiha was raspy. Izuna, the gatekeeper, sighed. I'm sorry. I do not have any information about what's going on. Can you tell me what Mizuki did? Sasuke turned around and motioned for Iochito to follow him, saying, there's no reason. It saddens me to know what Itachi did to his clan, Izuna said, turning to face the Uchiha and the Sabure. The second shinobi muttered, the past is in the past, there's nothing we can do about it now. Sakura sighed desolately. She has been making every effort to attract Sasuke's attention. Sasuke would never look at her the way she looked at him, no matter what she did or how hard she tried. She had no idea what she was doing incorrectly. She couldn't make sense of anything. Despite her efforts and exhaustion, he still. She reached up and touched her forehead, saying, he thinks I'm annoying and probably thinks I have a huge forehead too. Why must it be so large? Sakura put a hand down by her side. Sasuke. She walked around grinning at him, saying, hey Sasuke-kun, isn't it a good morning today? Before articulating, he was silent for a while. I couldn't say Sakura. He narrows his eyes at hers. She grinned more. She fidgets and exclaims, me neither, silly me. Thinking today was a good day. For a while, neither of them spoke. Sakura shattered it. Saya Sasuke. Sasuke's eyebrows shot up at how softly she spoke. Her head was lowered. Do you think she said, pausing. Do you think I could ever get stronger? Sasuke spent the most time ignoring her. He made a sound. Tisk. Anyone could be strong, Sakura. You should know this. You're smarter than anyone in our class. Sakura gasps, blushing. Sasuke-kun believes I'm the smartest person in my class. His hands were in his pockets. You could even top Shikamaru if you study hard enough. Sakura grinned at her memories of the past. Sasuke acknowledged her for the first time at that point. Sakura sighs angrily at the blonde boy. Naruto, why do you always have to be the eyeball? Sasuke interrupted Naruto. Sakura nodded and grinned at Sasuke, saying, it's because he's Adobe. What else could it be? You're always right, Sasuke-kun. Naruto truly is an idiot? Hey. For the first time in his life, Sasuke agreed with her, saying, HN. Sakura's face lit up with a subtle smile. Even though she and Sasuke haven't developed much, at least she was able to get him to agree with her and tell her that she can grow stronger. It's not mucha Buddha, it keeps me going. Sakura urged herself indifferently. With a finger to her lip, she devised a scheme to make Sasuke more conscious of her. Anyone could be strong, Sakura. You should know this. You're smarter than anyone in our class. Sasuke-kun's right. Anyone could become strong. No one is ever the top exterior when it comes to stats. She replies, her shining pink hair swaying with the wind. If I get smarter and stronger, then maybe I could catch up to you, Sasuke-kun. Wait for me. She ran home, regaining her confidence, who was motivating her to train and study hard. Sasuke-kun. Sakura failed to shut the door. She picked up the supplies she needed for her training by flying from room to room in an incredible manner. Where is it? Where is it? Screamed a frantic Sakura. She searched everywhere under her bed, sofa, and closet for the place where she kept her medical ninjutsu books. She sighed after giving up on finding the book after some time. Sakura sighed once more as she said, looks like I'll be going to the library, Sakura-san. As she glanced at the door, she noticed her mother's face peeking in. What is all this racket in here? Sakura got up and shuffled over to her mother, opening the door and saying, I'm sorry, Mom. I couldn't find my book on medical ninjutsu. Her mother blinked and then laughed. Sakura looked at her inquisitively. I'm sorry, sweetie, but I got bored and bored it for a bit. Sakura's perspiration drops. Are you saying that I have been looking for nothing? Sakura asked. Well, can I get it back? No. Beckoned a sulky Sakura. Why not? Her mother grinned broadly and said, I need you to do something first. Sakura, impatient with this situation, asked, what is it? I need you to come with me to the academy, her mother said, her lovely face still beaming. Why? Sakura asked, perplexed. I need to see with my own eyes how well you perform as a ninja. Not many people come back alive out on the battlefield. You need to prepare yourself to face the outcome it awaits. Her mother finished off with a serious face. Before Sakura could cancel her plans, she grabbed her hand. Sakura arrived at the academy grounds with her mother. Both of them gazed up at the sky. It was her mother who spoke first. It's beginning to get dark and it looks as if it's about to rain. We have very little time to spar. Her head shot to her mother as her eyes widened. Her mother smiled sorrowfully and said, you never told me you were a shinobi. She said softly, without revealing too much, and with a determined expression, I never told you a lot of thing, darling. I don't have time to scramble about history, let's get this show on the road. Her mother saw doubt and fear in her eyes. She couldn't bear to watch her child thinking negatively. Were her abilities truly that poor? Her mother asked, "You ready?" Sakura nodded, suppressing the urge to take a gulp. Her mother coasted a head kick to her side, which her daughter deflected with her forearm. "Okay. Get ready," she said. The adult woman swung her fisted palm directly at her cheek. Sakura was quick enough to duck beneath this blow and avoid it. Her mother used the opportunity to slam her knee, not too hard, in her daughter's face as she ducked. Ahhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhhh. Looked at her daughter, Sakura, and saw her scatter in a cloud of smoke. "Sakura, are you okay?" she exclaimed. Her mother was shocked and kept a close eye on everything. Before she ducked beneath me, she made a substitution. Smart and impressive. "Here I go. Mother," her mother exclaimed as she looked up at a self-assured Sakura relaxing with her feet at her head. The mother of Sakura swiftly seized her daughter's feet and slammed her back against the hard floor below. "Ah!" The shinobi with the pink hair let out a painful whimper. It was the actual Sakura this time. Tears welled up in her eyes and fell to the sumptuous ground below as she felt her back. Her mother loomed over her, terrified and anxious. Fear that she isn't prepared to be a shinobi and worry about how hard her back hit the ground. MMMPH. She bit her lip in an attempt to stop crying. She wished to hide her weakness from her mother. When Sakura said, "Sakura," her head slowly turned to look at her mother. Her mother began, "You don't have to be ashamed in front of me." Sakura's eyes enlarge as she looks at her mother's gentle features, saying, "When I was your age, I was the same way. I was always trying to do my best and I lived off the resolve of protecting the ones I loved. I had opportunities to grant myself to be even stronger, but I wasted all my time thinking about impressing your father that I wasn't looking at how bad my skills as a ninja really were." She looked her daughter in the eyes. Sakura could tell her mother was very serious when she said, "I need you to do better than I did. Don't be as me." That almost got her team killed because I didn't have any coordinate skills such as my teammates. My team were ahead of me on many levels. I got in the way of missions and the only good thing I could do was stand there with a kunai in my hands while the people I loved around me suffered. It was only when I saw Death Road did I put my life on the line for my team. In battle was the first time I ever stood up for myself. I felt like I had changed that very moment when I put my doubts behind me. You can do this too, but not like I did. You don't have to wait until death strikes your team just to fight back. You can start now and rid the fear in your heart. You could do all the things I couldn't do in the past. Her mother put a hand on her daughter's shoulder while grinning broadly. "I believe in you, and from what I had seen from today I can certainly shape you into the perfect shinobi, and I know just the person to do it. For now, we need to head to the library to check out more medical ninjutsu books. You seem to be quite interested." Sakura nodded with tears in her eyes. She used her arm to wipe away her tears. "Yes, mother. I love helping others in need. I love protecting the ones I love and I wish to grow stronger." Her mother's smile brightens at her firstborn proclamation. "Good. Let's go and find some new books and then we can go to Hokage Sama to see if we can get intact with that very special person." The emerald-eyed girl nodded joyfully and then got up to give her mother a hand. "Thank you." Her mother waved her away, saying, "No need to thank me. You're my daughter and I only want the best for you." She exclaimed, "Let's go and shape me into a fitted shinobi." Mother. Her mother smiled and took her daughter's hand. As the sky grew darker over him, Naruto let out a sorrowful sigh. He was perched atop the head of the fourth Hokage. He had a lot of things on his mind. Primarily regarding what Mizuki had said, but he was also unable to explain why his parents had kept this information from him. Even though Naruto was intelligent enough to figure out a lot of things, he was shocked to learn that he had a beast trapped inside of him. He questioned why he was regarded as a prodigy by everyone. Wouldn't everyone oppose him if they were aware of the truth? In actuality, did some people even realize that he harbors such a beast? Knowing Konoha's history of the demon fox and now realizing that it's permanently sealed inside you until death does its part killed him inside. He was particularly upset with his father and mother as a result. It was time to go home, he decided for himself. It appeared as though it would rain at any moment. To be honest, Naruto had no desire to return home. Now that the secret was out of the way, he decided there was no reason to pout. It's out now. He felt angry. He wanted to let the world know that he was the demon fox by screaming. That's what she had said, after all. That the ones you love are being killed by the demon fox. As he gazed at a stunning woman with tanned brown hair, smooth, pale skin, and milky white eyes, his 4-year-old mind thought, weird. The Hyuga's pearly white eyes met cerulean blue ones as they said, "I gave Hishomi my word to tell you this, Hokage. Sama. She wanted me to tell you that she has always believed you could accomplish your goal as Hokage. She always had it in her heart that you were meant to succeed. Till this day, even after death, she told me that you were her everyday inspiration. She even told me that. The woman paused before continuing. She even told me that she was in love with you. Kushina's shocked eyes enlarged. With no visible response to her announcement, Minato remained silent. It was a completely different case inside. He was struggling with his feelings and emotions in response to the Hyuga's final words. Kushina looked at Minato to check if he was as surprised as she was. She became confused and even hurt that her Minato might be feeling something for another girl when she didn't see any signs of surprise. The hurtful spark in Kushina's eyes was visible to the Hyuga. She took a step back. Kushina glanced at her and said, "She also wanted you, Kushina. Sama. To treat Minato. Sama with as much love and care she would have if she were still to be alive. You are a lucky woman," she words, and she goes on to tell me that you're the most beautiful woman she'd ever laid eyes on. She complimented your hair of looking as a silk velvet robe. Kushina makes a slight blush. She recalled Minato's comment about her hair. She also wants you to never forget that she's always supporting you from the other end. As tears trickled down his tanned face, Minato covered it. Concerned for her lover, Kushina glanced over. She was aware that he was crying over the death of one of his teammates, but he was trying to hide it to look tough. Minato stammered, "Is it true? What you said?" The Hyuga eyed him, nodding. "Hishomi told me all she wanted me to know before her death. She told me if there ever was a time when she died and didn't get to confess her true feelings to you, she brought it upon me to carry out her last message." Minato took a serious seat. Kushina whispered, "You must have been someone close to her." The Hyuga eyes danced around the room before settling on a young boy hiding behind a door. "Yes, I am. It was kind of funny how we met though. It was great remembering the times we had together." Her lovely features were placed in a frown as she continued to stare at him. After making the connection, Kushina noticed her son peeking through the door. She became enraged, but the Hyuga intervened and urged him over before she could scream. "Why don't you descend the steps? You shouldn't be scared. Why is a cute girl like you crying?" Kushina asked, looking at the woman out of the corner of her eye as her boy walked slowly down the stairs with a small teddy bear in his arms. He stopped in front of the woman. His head flopped cutely to the side. When Minato looked up to see this, he noticed that the woman's cheeks were in line. We discovered that the small bear had vanished. The young Naruto exclaims, "Oh no, will you ever track it down?" "The little bear is in a better place," the woman said, nodding. "Where she plays in clouds and rainbows." Knowing that ramen noodles were his favorite, she played along with him, even though she always eats a lot of ramen. His eyes were glistening. "Ramen? Yes. In order to prevent anything from burning up again, she constantly checks the timer. Where she is going, there is no pain. She will eat ramen and be happy forever. I'd like to attend." He had no idea it was a place beyond the heavens, and that statement made Minato and Kushina frown unhappy. "Oh no. You are unable to leave, not right now. You have a lot of work ahead of you, and when you get older, you'll need to defeat the evil monsters." Naruto's eyes sparkle and his cheeks puff up cutely. "You mean I'll beat up bad guys?" The Hyuga grinned and said, "Yes. In order to prevent the little lost bear from enjoying more of her delectable ramen and joyfully skipping in rainbows, they are attempting to seize control of the Heavenly Kingdom." For the first time in his life, Naruto glared gravely. "That cannot occur while I am present. I'll beat them and all the bear's concerns will be resolved." The three adults grinned at the child and threatened to beat up anyone who disturbed the bear's joy. She grinned at the little figure in front of her and said, "I'm sure she would like that very much, Naruto-kun." Before he arrived and brightened the room, everyone was solemn, but this boy could even make the sun blush. Naruto grinned and scowled at this recollection, feeling conflicted about whether he should be happy or sad, but he was still deeply angry and furious with his parents for good reason. No matter how much he wanted to hate them, he couldn't do it because he loved them. "I'm interested in learning more about Hishomi, Hyuga. Was she related to Hinata-chan, I wonder?" He expressed his feelings, and as soon as he said, "Hinata," he became even more depressed. He didn't even feel like eating ramen today. Naruto had a strong affection for her and had always held her in high regard as a close friend that he didn't want to lose. Little did Hinata know that Naruto had always considered her to be one of his most valuable people, and he had always had a strong bond with her before they even started talking. He used to watch her occasionally in her 1-on-1 matches. He viewed her as a worthy opponent who was a perfect fit for him, and his desire to be recognized by her is still present in his heart. He wanted her to see how strong he was, but more than anything, he wanted to keep her safe. His heart beat for her, yearned for her, and reached out for her. Naruto wanted to hold Hinata and tell her that she is strong, and he didn't know why his resolve to protect Hinata is so strong, but he couldn't help but admire her will to defeat him. He wanted Hinata to see the strength she possessed in herself as well, knowing that she has doubts about her ability to sustain a team. He wanted more from the Hyuga, wanted her to prove her father wrong too, and was saddened and disappointed that their sparring match didn't go on for very long. If she allowed him, he would even help her get the courage she needed. The blonde boy thought, Hinata. He knew he had deeply wronged her, but he didn't want to rush things, especially since they had just learned about it. Thud. What? I better get inside before the rain checks up with me, he said, gazing up at the sky as raindrops sprinkled the ground and fell on the Hokage monument. Using his father's charka walking exercise, Naruto ran down the monument and then ran straight home. Locking his voice in, the gate opened to reveal a gorgeous mansion surrounded by the happiest flowers imaginable. He hesitated before knocking lightly on the door, which he couldn't open without a key because his parents fear he'll be careless and lose it, which could be disastrous for them. He waited for a while, feeling a pleasant breeze blow over him. It is kind of nice when it rains, he thought, taking in some fresh, flowery air. They always kept the key somewhere sacred, where only they could find it. The door opens to reveal a small Konohamaru munching on some barbecue chips. After glancing at his boss's face, Konohamaru stops eating and asks, "What's wrong, boss?" He and his parents were waiting for him on the couch, but Naruto walked right by them. He opened his room door and lay on the bed without taking off any of his damp clothes. He didn't want to talk to anyone at the moment, especially not his parents, who would have a lot of explaining to do in the morning. He wanted to know everything of the team, the secrets, the deaths, and he was going to make sure that everything he was entitled to know was disclosed in the morning. With that final thought, his eyes closed and he fell asleep after a gentle 15 minutes. I'll just ask them in the morning. At the academy, Sakura Haruno was inspired by her mother's words when she was reading a book and her mother bent down to kiss her father. I was so focused on getting your father to recognize me that I failed to see how inadequate my ninja skills actually were. Is it possible that mother actually endured the same severe treatment as I did with Sasuke? She asked, looking at her curiously. I'm about to go to bed. You women ought to follow suit. Sakura watched her father suppress a yawn before entering the room with her mother. Before responding, there was a pause. Mother. Sakura mom. Mabuki's eyes narrowed. Yes, honey, what is it? She paused before continuing. Did you and dad? Have you ever had any issues with each other? She rested her back against her daughter's back. Yeah, her mother replies. Me and your father had a lot of arguments in the past. Why do you want to know? Looking out the window into the rainy sky, Sakura said, I wanted to know if I'm not the only one that is going through this. Are you referring to Sasuke-kun? A gentle gaze melted Sakura's features, and her cheeks held a gentle pink as she blushed at the mention of her crush name. Iya. Sakura gasped and turned around unconsciously when her mother said, Me and your father used to loathe each other. Her mother turned to face her daughter and nodded, saying, He called me a hothead, spoiled brat, and he called me annoying. But why? She was making her think of Sasuke, because they were all accurate. Since I was their only child, my parents would spoil me, so I did become irritated and agitated rather quickly. Although I concluded that I irritate those around me, I didn't find myself annoying. Sakura made a knowing face. I mostly irritated your father, and he didn't want to have anything to do with me. Although I had a major crush on him, I eventually came to despise him for hurting me so much that I nearly gave up on becoming a shinobi. I always had a strong desire to disprove him because of this. His hatred only makes me want to flaunt him. I suppose I irritated him so much one day that he actually said some extremely private things about me. I glared at my teammate and asked him why he was hanging around with a loser like him. Sakura thought of Naruto in this sentence. Your father was upset with me and avoided me as a result. His words to me caused me more pain than ever before. I secretly didn't despise him. I was furious with him for ignoring me despite the fact that I was in love with him. I grew to love your father and the boy I avoided. I wanted to do everything in my power to keep them safe because I loved them both. The boy I avoided eventually became a close friend of mine, but he also acts as a virtual brother to me. I came to believe in his dream and acknowledge his presence. After some time, I became stronger and showed a great deal of respect for my teammates. Your father was no longer the source of my rage and anxiety. I barely gave him a thought because I was so preoccupied with getting stronger. I was training all day and was on the verge of fainting from exhaustion, but your father smiled and looked down on me that day. He expressed his pride in me, and I was overjoyed to hear the words I had been waiting more than a year to hear. You didn't show him your strength for a year? Sakura gasped. Her mother smiled. No, it took a year for him to realize how strong my will was. Although he wasn't blind to my feelings, He was a bit cold-hearted. I threw my heart in his direction because I was an open girl. Even though it took him a while to see my will, it didn't take him long to see my strength. When forming teams, Mebuki remembers an incident. Back then, I had prevented him from being killed by cloud ninjas. I had exerted every ounce of my will and strength. I was helpful and maintained my composure, but I was no longer worthless to the team. I can still clearly recall the moment, as if it were today. Your father turned to me after the mission was over and said, "I am strong, and maybe the strongest in this team." I knew he was exaggerating my applause, but he still had a bright smile on his face. Sakura grinned as her inner self gave her hope. "When did he ask you out?" As her daughter laughed at her, Mebuki flushed. "Aw, Mom, don't you feel embarrassed?" Her face flushed. "Well, it was a little awkward for me and your father to get together." "Tell me. Let me know." Sakura yelled and clapped her mother's hands together. "All right. Okay." She laughed as she looked into her daughter's eyes, which seemed to be sparkling. When we realized it was getting late, we concluded our mission. Our Jonin instructor instructed us to pitch our tents and return early the following day. "All right, set up your tents, everyone." They were given directions by a man wearing dark glasses and a big, dark trench coat. "Hi." When I reached into my bag I couldn't find my tent and then it hit me I forgot to bring it from home. "Where's my tent, W?" "On the mission, didn't you need to bring a tent? On the way, did you sleep in any other tents?" Mebuki responded to her thoughts by saying, "Well, since it wasn't late when we started our mission, we didn't need to use a tent. Returning to your starting point always takes longer than moving to a new location. In addition, after the mission was over and we had to return to Konoha, we stayed at the home of a local woman." "So what took place?" Sakura asked eagerly, her Mebuki cheeks flaring. "Well, my tent is missing." Chunin screams in frustration and anger when she sees that there are only 2 tents, one for the Jonin and one for. A flush appears on her cheeks. She knows that if she were to enter her teacher's tent, he would likely think she was strange and that, despite his willingness to give her space, he was utterly self-centered when it came to sharing. He was known for sleeping in any situation, and she was upset that he was a pervert because she had witnessed him picking up Ichi novel books on a Jonin student named Jiraiya. She would have trouble breathing if she went to the other tent. What if he found her strange or creepy? She didn't want that to happen, especially since she had become so close to him. What should I do? After much deliberation, I made up my mind. I decided to accept it and go into the tent because I didn't want to sleep next to a pervert. As she knelt down and crawled into the tent, she noticed that both of the boys had turned to the other side. She recognized the first as her brother, and her cheeks were flushed. She crawled alongside him, turning on her side away from his face, her cheeks still permanently layered in pink. "I hope I don't awake him," she said. "Wait," she sighed and said, "I didn't even have a sleeping bag," before calling herself stupid for yelling that out. She blushed as a thought suddenly occurred to her. Now how am I going to keep warm? No way that's going to happen. Mebuki. She watches in shock as her crush calls her name. Leaning over him, she observed his facial expressions. When she said, "Mebuki." "Ila." Her eyes widened. "He is having dreams about me." Mebuki. "Lo. You what? What are you?" Her eyes widened even more as she frantically sought to understand his feelings for her. Her cheek was touched. She let out a scream. "Ah." I was so focused on his eyes that I didn't see him raise his arm. With an expression of love plague on his face, the young boy sat up and said, "Mebuki." "Kazashi." She was dragged into a cozy embrace before she realized it. The white rim of her eyes trembled. My heart was beating so fast. It happened so suddenly that I wasn't expecting it to come so quick, but I knew my year of training had paid off once he had kissed me. Stars appeared in Sakura's eyes. He caressed her soft blonde hair and caressed her sumptuous cheek, saying, "I've not seen you for a very long time. You would seek my attention, my acknowledgement." Her eyes widened at his newfound acceptance. "I've noticed ever since you tried to come on to me. You trained every day to help the team. I thought you were something special when you tried working hard and did what you came for the academy for. I saw you stronger," he said. "I used to think you were obnoxious and didn't know anything about being a ninja." She grimaced slowly. "Buddha, once you stop looking at me is when I start to look at you. Now it is me that want to be acknowledged by you. It is I that wants your attention, and it is I proclaiming that I am in love with you." His eyes met hers in a profound trance. Mebuki's eyes watered and she bit her lip in shock. The boy always whipped all of her tears as he reached up. "Do not be afraid to cry in front of me. I am not ashamed of you. I can no longer be ashamed because my heart now only belongs to you." From there on did my relationship with your father emerge, and I shared my first kiss with him. After all those years, Mebuki confessed to him, I owe you too. The boy simply grinned and said, I knew you did all along. He then reached up and gently kissed her. She had returned the kiss with equal fervor and love, and a tear escaped her eye. That famous night brought us the future we have today. I will never forget it. A tear began to form in the corner of Sakura's eye, and she whipped it. That was an amazing love story. I really envy you and Dad. She sighed sadly. I wish I had that with Sasuke-kun. Her mom forced a smile. You can. You can do better than I ever did, Sakura-san. You just have to believe it in your heart. If you truly want this boy you're so in love with, then why don't you put work into it? Frowning and sitting here isn't going to do a thing about it. With the strength her mother had given her, she grinned broadly and said, You're right, I'll try my best next time. But, next time you say something to Sasuke-kun, make sure it's not something he finds annoying. Sasuke-kun seems to be the kind that doesn't like pushy girls. Sakura rolled her eyes and said, All right, mother, I swear, and I swear to be nice to the idiot Naruto. I swear you remind me of myself every day. Her mother grinned and shook her head as she peered out the window. Why don't we head to bed? It's already dark and rain makes me sleepy. She had no idea how bad the rain was until now. You're right. Good night, mother, and don't you be having dreams of that kiss. Sakura chided her. Sakura laughed even harder when her mother's face turned red. Sakura blushed at her mother's words. Good night, daughter, and don't you be dreaming of a certain Uchiha. She naturally laughed at her. Before going to sleep, they each went their separate ways, and in their dreams, they both kissed the person they love. Naruto yawned and grabbed the covers as he woke up. As he started to stand up, he noticed that the sheets were different. After he went to bed last night, he concluded that perhaps his parents had changed them. Mom. Dad. He looked curiously at the door, feeling enraged at the memory of his parents. The fact that they withheld this from him infuriated him. He waited too long to realize what it was that made him so despised by everyone. Why did his presence cause everyone to suddenly become tense? He tightened his jaw. He cried as he turned to make his bed linens, asking, Mom. Dad. How could you? Then he finished his bed and walked slowly to the door. He worked on it for the longest time, hesitatingly moving his hand back and forth at the doorknob. He put his hand on it again and twisted it. Naruto. To Naruto's surprise, his mother and father were standing directly in front of him. Naruto kept staring at them, his icy features displaying a range of emotions. Mom. Dad. Why? He whispered inquisitively. The villagers despise me for something that existed before I was born. I am always blamed and viewed as the demon that destroyed Konoha many years ago. I felt like I was trapped. Watching those joyful expressions change into fear, anger, hatred, every time they look at me. His parents could see the change in their son. Once I realized that it was my personality. Maybe I was too loud. He raised his head to his parents, shooting them a glare. Minato and Kushina watched in dismay and embarrassment. Minato was interrupted when Naruto's fist struck his jaw, saying, Naruto, we really wanted to tell you. Minato's eyes widened as Naruto broke down. Oh, you're gonna tell me, all right. You're gonna tell me everything you know. I want to be told the truth. I'm tired of all the secrets, all the hurt. Be truthful, please. With a tear in his eye, he whispered, just please be truthful to me as a son. What have we done, Minato? Our Naruto is angry with us. I'm so sorry, Naruto. Forgive me. Kushina sobbed as she collapsed to her knees. When Naruto saw his mother's face covered in tears, his chest ached. As Naruto watched helplessly, Minato lowered himself to assist her. If it hurts you that bad, mother, then I'm sorry. Naruto was taken back when he was suddenly embraced. No, Naruto, you are the one that's hurting. What we did was selfish and inconsiderate. We are both so deeply sorry, and we would understand fully if you do not want to speak with us this moment. Your mother's right. You have every right to be angry with us, Minato said, giving her a reassuring pat on the back. Kushina put a hand to her heart and said, Naruto, we will tell you everything we know. Naruto pulled away from his mother's embrace and said, I want to know everything about what happened that day the Nine Tails attacked the village. Kushina was shocked by Naruto's change of heart, but she smiled in relief as his frown gradually changed to a smile. I gotta go. The academy is waiting for me, Naruto said without saying anything. Kushina sounds frantic as her lover puts a hand to her shoulder and squeezes firmly. Come back to me, my son. I love you. Have fun at the academy, Naruto. Naruto gave them the thumbs up before heading off to the academy. I don't know what to do, Minato. Kun. Naruto is going to hate us even more when he finds out the council wants him exiled from the village. Kushina said with concern. The Hokage sighed. That is why we have to deal with the new Naruto. You know, as well as I do, Naruto trying his best to hide his pain. To keep herself from crying again, Kushina bit her lip and said, I know, I can see through it to Minato-kun. His smile was fake. Pav Naruto, I was a little desperate when I entered the academy building. I questioned why I was still a burden to this village and if I was really wanted in this damned world. It makes sense why the villagers give me a disgusted look. I am a monster. The girls bombarded me with questions as soon as I entered the classroom. He didn't hear them fussing over him because I was so absorbed in my thoughts. A worried girl yelled, Naruto. Sama, what happened to you? Are you hurt? But was pushed down by a feisty brunette. Naruto-kun, could you take me out right now? Naruto. Sama. Naruto-kun. I pushed past my fangirls and sat in my seat, still in his thoughts. I saw that Sasuke's usual seat was vacant. Suddenly, Sasuke and Iochito appeared as the front door of the classroom opened. Before they had a chance to react, the fangirls rushed towards them. I could hear Shikamaru moaning, and there was a lot of shouting and screaming going on across the room. He described the scene as troublesome, and I stifled a laugh. After that, I recalled yesterday's most recent events. My gaze darted around the room, trying to figure out who it was. At that moment, I noticed her staring out the window as though she were in some sort of strange hypnotized trance. I wanted to approach her and have a conversation, but I was worried that exposing my face would make her even more angry. I keep looking at her a little longer until our eyes suddenly lock. As I stared into those stunning pearl-like eyes that made me think of the glow of a full moon on a starry, dark night, time seemed to slow down. I searched those tearful eyes for answers. Why did we have to be separated by this? Why was this the way it had to be? Is there a possibility of returning? If yes, what must I do to win your friendship once more, Hinata-chan? I penetrated her more deeply, almost as if I could see right through her soul. That is when I saw the unseen hatred, the hurt, the betrayal, the mistrust, and the pain of that unseen darkness. As I peered more closely into her eyes, I noticed something I never would have noticed before. A drive. She disconnected and took another look out the window to divert her attention. Naruto. Where have you been? I've been looking for you all day. You know how angry I am at you, Dobi. Sasuke spit and crossed his hands over his chest before saying, I heard about Mizuki. I sighed as he hurried over to me with a worried expression in his eyes. Common Pav Naruto said softly, Oh, you're going to hate me too, aren't you? He asked. Naruto looked down and muttered, So, they haven't told you? Sasuke raised an eyebrow as he sat down beside his brother. Why would I hate you because Mizuki led you on? He asked. Sasuke was perplexed. Told me what Naruto? Naruto smiled at him, and Sasuke could see right through it. What the hell went on? I know you're faking, Naruto. I'm not gullible. I've known you too long, Naruto. Now tell me. Sasuke looked into Naruto's eyes, trying to understand what he was saying, and he said, Fine. Naruto took a deep breath and looked Sasuke in the eyes. Promise me you won't hate me after this. On my birthday, it is said that the 9 tails attacked the village and were killed by the 3rd Hokage. That was a lie. The truth is they sealed the 9 tails inside a newborn baby, and that baby name is. Iruka interrupted Naruto, saying, All right, class, enough talking. Today is the day we announce the genin teams. The room erupted in hollahs and roots. As he heard someone snort nearby, Kiba shouted to his dog Akamaru, You hear that, Akamaru? We finally get to be a team and show our kick-ass moves to everyone. Then I can win over everyone's approval and then become Hokage. At the end, Ino batted her eyelashes and said, as if dog breath, You'll never get anywhere near being the Hokage. To the Inazuki boy. Sasuke-kun, however, will become Hokage and we'll finally be married by then. Too bad Sasuke don't like pigs. Kiba growled, flashing his canine fangs. Half the class laughed, and even Sasuke grinned. Ino screamed in his ear, What did you say, dog breath? In an attempt to demonstrate her strength. As she sat down beside her best friend Sakura, Iruka smiled at the pouting Ino and said, Okay, calm down everyone. As he proceeded down the list of teams, Iruka reached Team 7, Team 7 Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto became excited upon hearing his name called, Sabure Iochito. Iochito let out a disappointed sigh as a tick mark appeared on Naruto's head. I'ma be in Naruto. Sama's team, then I can prove my love for him. Yeah right. As if Naruto-kun will want to be with a low-life dumb blonde. Naruto thought he saw sparks fly as they exchanged heated glares. Hyuga Hinata. Her eyes met his as soon as her name was called, and a strong spark ignited this time. No, were the depressing words that hit Hinata in the face. Naruto remained in his chair. The fact that he was fortunate enough to be with the Hyuga heiress was unbelievable to him. This must have been a kami blessing. Team 8 will have 4 people. Shino Ibarun, Kiba Inuzuka, Haruno Sakura and Uchiha Sasuke. No, Kiba Inuzuka and the fangirls exclaimed. Why should I suffer to be with Sasuke? Why is there a 4-man cell? Hey, don't talk to Sasuke-kun like that, cried Ino, the blonde. Sasuke, Sasuke, Sasuke. Naruto sat hunched over laughing, and Sasuke appeared a little irritated. When Sasuke's icy voice entered the room, the fangirls shivered with pleasure as he said, Inuzuka, I suggest you to be quiet now or feel the wrath of the Uchiha clan. Sakura murmurs, Sasuke-kun, like I'll be afraid of the last Uchiha that is pissed over something that happened a long time ago. Oh shish. You made a mistake up there, hugely. His glassy eyes were moving crazily in the direction of the Inuzuka. What did you say about my clan? He asked. You heard what I said. A Hokage don't stutter. He laughs, smugly defending his position. Iruka intervened. That's enough, Inuzuka. Sit down in your seat and calm down, all of you. Naruto yelled, he's not worth it, Sasuke. He doesn't know what it's like. Sasuke stopped dead in his tracks and said, so don't you, Dobi. Sasuke chose to ignore him. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Sasuke lunged a strong jutsu at the Inuzuka, causing the class to gasp. So that's how you want to play it? Fine by me. The Inuzuka exclaimed, grinning as his hands made signals. Let's do this, Akamaru. The Inuzuka was caught off guard, barely avoiding the attack. Everyone watched in awe as Akamaru changed from a dog to a human and a perfect replica of Inuzuka Kiba. No? Kiba yelled before Iruka could halt the attack. Human beast transformation. Fang over fang. The Inuzuka and Akamaru spun in circles that were strikingly similar to tornadoes and headed toward the Uchiha. The assault was so severe that it nearly tore through the wall and overturned the desk. Both Kiba and Akamaru touched the wall with their hands and feet. Naruto gestured with his hand, Shadow Clone Jutsu, just in time to halt another of Sasuke's fireballs. Sasuke scowled as he watched Naruto's shadow clones emerge from his ninjutsu, saying, Don't interfere, Dobi. What is wrong with you, Sasuke? You don't do this kind of stuff in the academy. I thought you were better than this. If you want to fight, fight me. Naruto stomped over and grabbed Sasuke's collar. You don't know what it's like to be alone. I'm tired of talking. Time to finish this. Sasuke swung his hand away from him and sighed, but before he could finish, he was imprisoned in a wooden cage. Earth style. Wooden caged jutsu. What on earth is this? The class watched in amazement as the display continued. Until the academy is over, you will stay in this little cage and let it be your new friend. I won't have you putting my students in danger. Sensei, Sakura said, there's a huge dent in the wall. Iruka's sweat dropped at Sakura, saying, I'm fully aware of that, Sakura. Please everyone sit down. From inside the cage, Kiba growled and yelled back at the blonde, well, it's not like the Inuzuka was going to win over Sasuke-kun anyway. Kiba's such a loser. Oh, shut up, Ino. Pig, you're just mad because Sasuke-kun don't want you. Like he wants you. As Iruka began to feel a headache, Sakura grinned and said, I have a better chance. Let's get back to assigning teams. Don't think this little incident will not be heard about to the Hokage Sasuke. Tisk. Do what you want. Sasuke, Naruto yelled angrily as he leapt to his feet, clutching the cage's rails. What makes you think you're so high and mighty? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of all of this. Acting like you can't be beaten. Why, Sasuke, you don't get. No, you don't understand. Sasuke cut in a roaring rage. You don't know what it's like to have no family, to have your brother soldier your entire clan. You have a family to come back home to. I don't. So you're saying we don't mean anything to you? Naruto roared. Huh? Sasuke. Is that it? Is that why you always had that pole stuck up your ass? In an attempt to pull Naruto out of the cage Sasuke was in, Iruka said, enough. Sakura observed from a distance as her eyes began to well up with tears. Damn it, Naruto. I suffered long enough to witness my own flesh and blood murder my clan. He will suffer, and if you get in my way you'll meet the same fate as him. Iruka frantically screamed, Naruto, Sasuke, enough. While attempting to pull Naruto from the rail, he underestimated his strength. Before Naruto could move, Iruka managed to pry the Jinchuriki from the cage, saying, "If that's how it's gonna be, then I'm ready to die, Sasuke." Earth style. Wooden cage jutsu. Silencer. The floors trembled as wood sprang up from their feet, forming a barrier around the now trapped Jinchuriki. Naruto was unable to speak because his hands were tied up and the wood was clamped to his mouth. As the class eyes adopted pans, Iruka sighed, "Now that that's settled, let's get back to teams." "So cool," and "What the hell just happened?" were among the many murmurs that filled the classroom. As he stood up and recited the final team, Iruka declared, "If anything like this happens again, all of you will be kicked and banned from the academy. Keep your drama at the front door." Ino moaned and slammed her head against the table, muttering something like, "I'm with a lazy ass that sleeps all day and a boy that can't stop stuffing his fat face for 1 second. Team 10 is Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru, and Akamichi Choji." Shikamaru sighs, "What a drag. We have to be on a team with a loud-mouthed girl." "What did you say, lazy ass? See what I mean? Troublesome." Iruka announced to the class, "Okay, now that everyone is assigned teams, you will wait till your sensei arrive." "What about me?" Iruka heard the Inuzuka yell angrily, "You're going to stay in that cage until your sensei arrive." Iruka grinned and said, "That's what you think." Kiba snorted, "Me and Sasuke are on the same team. It wouldn't make a difference." "Whatever." Kiba concludes. When Sasuke's eyes met Inuzuka's, the latter became icy upon seeing it. "Don't think this is over for once, Inuzuka." Only Naruto, Hinata, and Iochito remained until their teacher disembarked, and I must say that he was extremely late. "We've been standing here for more than an hour and this guy still hasn't shown up," moaned Naruto, his teeth clenched as he considered what kind of justification he might think of. Iochito was concerned about Hinata and asked, "I'm sure he'll be here any moment now, right Hinata? Since she started at the academy, she hasn't spoken to either Naruto or him." He wondered what had happened between the Mizuki incident and why she had that expression, as though she were grieving. Iochito grew even more depressed when Hinata failed to respond. He detested seeing such a lovely girl in any state of worry or sadness. He noticed the pained expression on Naruto's face as he just looked at Hinata. Iochito told Naruto, "How long are you going to say that knowing he's not gonna show up?" and shook his head. He discovered that Naruto has a high level of impatience. Patience is the key to success. "I got an idea." Naruto blurts out, grinning cunningly. "What are you planning now, Naruto?" Iochito shivered. "You'll see." He then watched as Naruto picked up a bucket and an eraser, then placed the bucket over the door. "You really believe a Jonin could be duped by that, Naruto?" Iochito questioned, wondering whether Naruto was just as stupid as Sasuke said he was. Naruto just grinned, saying, "He'll fall for it, await the sight of his face." The door opened and the eraser struck him on top of the head, accidentally hitting the bucket as well. "My initial impression of you all is that I despise you all. Come meet me at the building's summit. Toodles." As he walked away, a smile formed a U with his eyes. Iochito stood in disbelief as Naruto erupted in laughter, saying, "I can't believe he fell for that." They both turned around when they heard a small giggle behind them, but all they saw was the wind. Hinata must have already left. Naruto nodded as they climbed atop the Hokage building. "Let's go, Naruto." They saw Hinata sitting on some stairs and Kakashi leaning on the rail, enjoying the wind, when they got up there. Naruto was a little nervous about sitting next to the Hyuga after everything that had happened, but he forced himself to sit by the girl of his dreams, and Iochito did the same. "All right, let's introduce ourselves before we can work as a team. Share your aspirations, interests, and dislikes with me." Kakashi thought, "He didn't tell us anything and he already lied to us on the first day." Naruto said, "Why don't you tell us yours first, sensei?" Kakashi looked at him and then grinned. "I am Kakashi Hitaki, and I have no dreams. And I barely have any hobbies, likes, I don't like too much and dislikes, well, I hate everyone." How about you go first, Grapehead?" After giving the man a fierce look, Iochito boldly answered, "My name is Sabure Iochito. I enjoy medical ninjutsu and training," he said, shifting his gaze to Hinata. "But most of all, I like Hinata." Naruto snorted as Kakashi showed some interest. "My hobbies are studying clans and genjutsu." Kakashi and Naruto raised an eyebrow at his hobbies. "I dislike, well, that's easy." He grinned. Naruto gave him a hateful look. "My dream is to become a strong medical nin and someday marry a certain someone." Naruto felt like throwing up at his admission. Naruto muttered, "Keep dreaming." Kakashi noticed and sighed, having to deal with not one but two boys' love and the same girl. Naruto smiled and said, "Okay, blonde, you next, hey." The characters are Naruto Uzumaki. Keep it in mind. The boys' confidence level caused them to perspire. I enjoy the cup of Ichiraku ramen that Iruka-sensei got me. After pouring the water, I have to wait 3 minutes for the ramen, which I detest. Training to become the best ninja in the world is my pastime. And my dream is to surpass and become the greatest Hokage there is so that the villagers will acknowledge me and want to be like me. He exclaims, continuing. And one day I'll make a special person of mine look at me the way I do, he said, glancing at Hinata. Have faith. Naruto gave a thumbs up to end his excitement. Interesting. He wants to become and surpass all the previous Hokage. Alright girlie, you last. Their spines tingled as she said, Hyuga Hinata is the name. I like to train and go out for long walks to clear my mind. Naruto gave her a knowing glance and said, I also dislike masks because they conceal the true emotions and feelings of a human, but I study the mask. I dislike the confrontation my life had abruptly thrown at me. Her next statement, my dream is to change my clan and become one of the strongest shinobi in the ninja world and to one day surpass you Naruto, gave Naruto hope, but her smile covered her porcelain features. My other hobbies are watching my teammates try their best to achieve. A fascinating young woman. The rumors about her are untrue, but I have to watch over her and Naruto. I'm not comfortable with that last sentence for some reason. Both Iochito and Naruto smiled. They were simply pleased to see that, at least in their opinion, she was starting to warm up. Alright, this has been a fascinating gathering. I'm afraid I have to leave you be, but before you go I have something I want to tell you guys. He began, but those who don't care about their companions are worse than trash. They leaned in to hear what he had to say. Those who don't follow the rules and regulations are trash. Tomorrow meet me at the 3rd training ground at 6 o'clock. Oh, and don't eat any food. You'll throw up. He saw Hinata flinch a little before she straightened up, and he shunned her away, leaving the 3 genins standing in bewilderment.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.